right. Peace, family. Let me do an audio check. Make sure the audio is good. I did it one earlier. It was supposed to be good, but let's see. Yeah, it sounds good on my part. Good love. Yeah. So does the audio sound good right now? Does the microphone sound good? All right. Peace, family. Let me do an audio check. Make sure the audio is good. I hear it a little low though. One earlier. It was supposed to be good, but let's see. Yeah, it sounds good on my part. Good love. Yeah. Okay, so let me know, does the audio sound low, medium, or good before I start ranting? A so Golden Brown, yeah, so that sounds interesting. My advice to you would be look into it expecting any results. All right. What I mean by that is look into it, any research you guys do, look into it expecting the results to either agree with you or disagree with you. Therefore, you don't shape it and ignore things and only accept things that agree with you. So that's the issue with a lot of researchers. Like people go in to research with an opinion already. And that's okay to do that, but you need to be open to the results, probably debunking your opinion going in. Right. And that's not a good feeling. That happens to me a lot. And ignore things. Yeah, the microphone's good. Yeah. So yeah, so when you look into things like that, Golden Brown, especially from an FBA perspective, we're gonna already have our mind made up as though it's gonna end this way or it's gonna happen this way. But a lot of times it don't. The research doesn't show that. And sometimes the research just be inconclusive. Like it can favor your mindset going in, or it could easily, it's like 50-50. There's some evidence to suggest that what you're on to is correct and you're going the right way, but then there could be evidence that's questioning you enough where it's like, I can see pushback. I can see if I present this publicly, I can see pushback that's justified, and I really can't get around the pushback. I see that from a lot of researchers, even ones that we like. You dig? When you follow up on the research, it ain't as one sided as they appeared it to be. So I'm trying to give you an example of something I researched, and I thought it was going to be an easy walk in the park, but the evidence just wasn't there. I'll think it, but it happens a lot when you research. But always, that's why my name is Unbiased, right? I took on the name Unbiased, okay, Ron, or my former name Unbiased Sports, whatever I'm into. I try to be unbiased, right? Um, Everything you believe in and you research behind it, sometimes it just doesn't support it. And when I'm just totally debunked, I just get rid of it. I mean, that thought I had, I just say, okay, I just concede. Okay. Like for example, I have a friend looking into sundown towns. Okay. And and I think that and he's trying to connect something else to it. And just off the back, I'm like, okay, he's gonna have a problem because there are no official sundown towns. So my question back to him, I didn't ask him, but my question would have been back to him, what is defined as a sundown town and how do you confirm that it is? Okay, just because a black guy got beat up by a white guy or maced by a police officer, that could be just a one-off incident. That don't mean the town is sundown. So I'm thinking like, yo, you would actually have to record a sign, but anybody could put it, okay, there's a sign up. So what? That doesn't mean the town agrees with that. Like any nut can, we got graffiti in our neighborhoods, Bloods, Crips or this gang. That don't mean the city is gang, gang, gang. Is that one nut did some graffiti. So it's more complex than somebody just saying it's a sundown town, than somebody getting beat up by two white people, or you even seeing a sign. Like you would need some hardcore evidence. You would need like people behaving in a such of a way, like the viral video of the construction site with the black guy delivering. Now that doesn't mean it's a sundown town. That just means three white rate three racist white people didn't want the guy business, right? Didn't want him delivering nothing there. But like you need a lot of evidence. It just it's more complex than what we would like it to be, and there is more evidence required. Okay, so I believe my boy was considering anything a sundown town. It's like that's not how that works, my boy. If you calling it that, then the burden of proof is on you, and the evidence has to be overwhelming. Okay, overwhelmingly, it cannot be. I got little evidence because you're gonna get pushback. Y'all watch trials. You're gonna get pushback, and they're gonna poke holes in your thing and ask you questions, cross-examine you. If you don't have the answers, you're done. Your claim is gone. Okay, so American Dream, Golden Brown, give last. Yeah, so research is big. And, that's how American Dream researches. Um, that's how revenue researches. It's confirmation bias. They look at only what they'll read an article and they'll only remember or cherry pick what they agree in the article. Okay, so and that's how the proper perspective researches. Here's case in point. First of all, I did a poll, right? Because anybody can debate and toot their own horn, and everybody thinks that they always win, right? They always win. So I like to get constructive criticism. What I said was, let me ask the chat, how did I do, right? Versus, and I think I'm gonna do this more often because I got flaws, right? Sometimes I get over emotional. Sometimes I could be heavy on the mute button, and I can over talk but so we'll review it. Now I know I crashed out at the end, and I purposely crashed out at the end. I knew I wanted to get all my questions out because I was gonna crash out way earlier. But I said, okay, no, 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 Ron, get all of your questions out and then crash out. Because in my mind, dude was low key being offensive, throwing shots and being disrespectful. And I said, let me just maintain my composure. And once the last question is out and got his last ridiculous answer, I'm just going to crash out, which I did. All right. But that was a planned crash out. All right. So anyway, this is my poll. I worded it in such a way where I wanted to receive heavy criticism. So it says, good FBA approval, like meaning that you guys approved of the way I handled the conversation, conducted myself, and brought out information. Two, it wasn't the best representation of an FBA intellectual, but I did enough to get the message across, right? And then number three, just bad, right? Just bad. I just need to work on a lot. And you got people who felt like that. 8% of the voters, we only had about 24 voters. So I'm gonna leave it up there. I wanted to grow at least to 100. And 8% said, "No, you did bad, dude. You did bad. We didn't appreciate, we didn't, like that dialogue." 4% says barely, but most people, it's not a lot because we had over 1,000 people view it. So 24 votes don't really tell the picture of satisfaction or unsatisfaction, right? So that's why at least if this was up to like 500, this would be dope. So if you guys have not voted, please go check out the post, the community post, and just vote. It's unanimously or anonymously. Sorry, I won't. It's anonymously, right? It's anonymous, so I won't know who you are. No way to find out. Vote honestly, and I will work on myself based upon what you guys select. Diamond, Rico, Andre Townsend. Okay, so now let's go on. So now this brother right here, I'm not even gonna show his channel. I'm gonna show that. Now this is a brother right here who's been he's been on my show, on my podcast a few times. He did horrible, okay, horrible, and he lies a lot. And he's one of those guys who just hate FBA. He hates Tariq Nasheed. He hates Yvette Colonel. He just hates the whole idea of what we're doing. Obviously he's a Pan-Africanist. And his thumbnail, that picture on the bottom left, that's Ben. They call him Dr. Ben, but he does not have a doctorate. degree in any way, shape, or form. Ben, you know, he's their Egyptian Baba or expert, but no degree. Never formally went to school and got a degree. And at that time, a lot of black men were calling themselves doctors when they were not doctors. Yeah, no doctorate degree at all, and no medical. A lot of them were calling themselves a doctor, as far as a license to practice medicine, and they were not that either. Right. So that's like a common thing to give yourself titles that was undeserving, to make yourself, to sell you snake oil. Okay. But he copped out. Okay. He copped out to a plea. This channel right now, he copped out to a plea to talk about FBA because he's trying to grow large, he's trying to grow big, and regular content about Pan-Africanism, it just wasn't hitting. He was getting 200 views, 100 views, 300 views. Nobody's interested. Dude, that's an L. And I don't know why they just cannot accept the L. Pan-Africanist, nobody tunes into that stuff, man. You're not going to get 20,000 views on a Pan-Africanist video. You're not getting 5,000 views. Okay? That is a testimony in itself. That's is dead. We don't got to tell you it's dead. Look at your views when you talk about Pan-Africanism. It's dead. Family, do a video talking about Marcus Garvey if you're a Pan-Africanist. It's dead. Do a video addressing Baba Smalls. It's dead. All these Pan-Africanists, the views are just not there. It's dead. So what do? They put FBA, like this guy right here did. They put FBA in their title, and they hope to kick off some controversy to get folks to tune in. And they'll tune in only because it says FBA or Tariq Nasheed or ADOS or Black Americans are wrong. Anything that's affiliated with us, they'll put in the title, and they'll get the most views they ever had. And then they will delude themselves to believe, hey, okay, we're up and thriving. And then they go right back into Pan-Africanism, and they're right back at 200 views. Okay. So then let me get out of there. Now, let's go into this is right here. Let's do a recap. No, this is it. Let's do a recap of the debate. Now, it wasn't really technically a debate because he didn't want it to be. Now, he was the one who made a video attacking us, addressing us, and now he's called out. Like, hey, man, I want to have a conversation with you based on what you said, not what I have and what I have researched, none of that. I want to have a conversation with you based on what you said about us. Oh, okay, but I don't want it to be a debate. All these restrictions, so he cannot be held accountable about what he said. Okay, so let's start right here. So this is where it picked up right here. Let's go. Donnie, peace to you. Now, you guys know I normally don't like to go live when like Tariq, now she got a premiere on right now. I usually don't like to, I like to either do it before him, like let's say 7:30, 8 o'clock, or I like to go live after him. But time is of the essence today, so I had to go live and I had to go live. So, oh well. I'm up anyway, but but if I don't share, if I unshare, it will come up. So let me proper. I think it's you. This could be anybody. Maxwell Jenkins.
If you can hear me,
okay.
Yeah, I called in.
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, great. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing okay.
Great. Yeah, so I watched your video. Your video came up on my feed because we do a lot of FBA titles ourselves, right? We go by that term, but just not that, right? So you got some FBAs who just say the FBA, nothing else. You got ADOS, nothing else. We are not that strict. Okay, we understand what everybody's trying to do. That gives a unique name. Everybody's trying to identify the lineage. So we just call it the lineage because we know what they're trying to do. They're trying to name the lineage. You got some say American freedmen or USA freedmen. So we don't get caught up in what you call yourself. Even if it's African American, right? If you want to call yourself African American, but you're exclusively saying that the folks that have a legacy of slavery, a lineage of slavery, are the African Americans. We don't have a problem with that. You can say black, you can say Ninja Turtles, because we know what you're describing. You're describing the same people I'm describing or identifying. Okay, that's all. So then we'll debate that later in time, like the best fitting term. But I
Okay.
watched your video. I watched your video, and you don't go with the whole acronym thing, but you are Black American, right?
Correct.
Okay. Do you believe your answers are foundational to this country? Like start the foundation, laid the foundation down?
Yeah, that's kind of obvious. Yeah.
So would you say your ancestors were foundational Black Americans? All right. So family, that's my question I give these guys to show that FBA is okay. Like they look at FBA as like it's the cooties. So they act like when we say foundational Black America isn't in the wording, right? So that's why I asked them, do you consider yourself Black American? Yes. Do you believe your ancestors were foundational to this country? They laid the foundation. He said yes. So I said, so do you believe your ancestors were foundational Black Americans? I mean, he said yes to every term, but now when I just say them all at the same time, when I say time, but when I say them as one identifier, now all of a sudden, okay. So for example, hey Donnie, are you strong? Or do you believe you're strong? Yes. Donnie, do you believe you are very witty, very bright? Yes. Okay. Do you believe you're an honest worker? Yes. Okay. Now look, I'm gonna put it together. So Donnie, would you consider yourself a strong, bright, honest worker? Well, since you put it that way, no. Like, like that's what he just did. So he said he's Black American, so it's his ancestors. His ancestors are foundational to the country. Okay, so are they just foundational Black Americans? Well, you put it that way, no. Your ancestors were foundational Black Americans?
I, as long as you're just sticking to that label to identify people who have been here because of the
Ain't
transatlantic
that just
slave
what we do?
trade, who were kidnapped from Africa, put in the chains, put on the boats, and brought over here. Yes.
Okay, can I ask you that? Look. Well, ain't that exactly how we describe ourselves? Just what he said. Well, if you just say it like that, then yes, family, that's exactly how we use it. Like what other way could we use it? We use it the exact way he just agreed to. Foundational, you laid the foundation, responsible how this country got its wealth and railroad tracks and economy boosted. You dig? And you're Black American. He said yes to everything. That's the confusion. So now I didn't hone in on that because he said kidnapped, and this is a Pan-Africanist talking point. You see, Revenue did a horrible job. So I'm like, okay, what do you mean we got kidnapped? I told you guys, Pan-Africanism is a religion, and they revise history. They got their own funny history, and their history, they do not hold Africa or the diaspora accountable for anything bad or that seems to be bad. Africa is just holy forever. It can never do anything wrong. The white man is the devil. The white man, even the good the white man does is bad. And even the bad Africa does is good. Okay, so I asked him about what do you mean Africans got kidnapped, right? That's a term that Pan-Africanists exclusively uses. So right when they say that word, I already know this person is either Pan-Africanist or they have Pan-Africanist ideology. So I usually challenge them like this. Okay.
Slave trade, who were kidnapped. I, as long as you're just sticking to that label to identify people who have been here because of the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, he just said as long as you stick to that label to identify basically the lineage. It's like, yo, that's exactly what it is. It's to identify the lineage. Like, why do y'all think it's much more than that? It's an ethnic identifier. Those are the words I use. I say foundational Black American, Adolfs, and freedmen. They're just ethnic identifiers to describe our ethnic group, our unique ethnogenesis. That's all it is. That's why you can be a Pan-Africanist, you could be a Buddhist, you can be a Muslim, Christian. We have no problems with your sexual preference. We have no problem with you being a capitalist, communist, liberal, conservative. You could do whatever you want to do. Okay, this you could be a fool, a drug dealer. We don't accept it, but you have the right to do all those things, and you're still going to be under the label Foundational Black American, Adolf, Freedman. Okay, you're still of the lineage. That's the point. This is just your unique identifier. What is so hard to understand? He agrees to it. He agreed. It's an identifier that he can rock with. So it's like, well, why are you against FBA? Okay, but this is the kidnapping part.
Who were kidnapped from Africa, put in the chains, put on the boats, and brought over here. Yes.
Okay, can I ask you that? Who kidnapped them from Africa?
Say it again. Who kidnapped Africans from Africa?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. There were some continental Africans in a few kingdoms that participated in the kidnapping process, but everybody was thrown onto boats built by white people. Everybody was shipped overseas.
Okay, so what he's saying right now, this is called deflection. All right, he's running from accountability. Okay, this is afterwards. Obviously, you have to catch, round up, detain Africans or black people in order to get them to sell them to white people, and white people would do their part. They'll bound them on the ships and those type of things, and then travel across the seas to the desired destinations, right? So now he's skipping past the roundup part, the detainee part. Okay, so these guys are talking about ICE. Well, again, like, well, we are the first ICE people. They rounded us up and they deported us. We got rounded up and deported. All right. But worse, because we got sold. It's like, so ICE, these folks today, not making light of what's going on, but they're being rounded up and being brought back to their country. We were rounded up and sold. Okay, deported and sold.
Those
Not even deported, but excommunicated. That's worse. Deported means being deported. That's a legal thing that happens, right? That's part of immigration. We got excommunicated. You dig? Kicked out. Like, don't come back here no more. Some sundown type time. So this is a sundown town. They're saying we don't want you here in this city, this town, this tribe no more. You got to not just get out. You got to get out the country, and we're going to sell you somewhere else. So that's why, as far as I'm concerned, once we got rounded up and sold, that African garbage, that West African, Nigerian garbage, whatever we were supposed to be at that time, once we got rounded up and sold, that identifier was sold as well. So when they get mad that we say we're not African, we're not this, we're not that, yes, once you sold us, that was stripped as well. Okay, now we're bought. So a new ethnic label bought us, a new culture, a new country bought us, and that's where we've been. And those who end up in Haiti, Brazil, guess what? They were bought too, and that's why they call themselves Brazilian, Haitian, and those who were bought in the Caribbean, guess what? They call themselves after their buyers as well, because we all recognize our identity was sold, replaced with the new buyer.
manned by Europeans, sold on auction blocks, 99% of which were managed by the white people that came over here.
Yeah, so I agree with some things you said, brother. Are you familiar with the panelists on the video I was sharing? Are you familiar with some of them?
I'm familiar with some of them. I didn't catch your live like from the beginning. When I tuned in, I think I saw Dr. Mayat on screen. So I'm a little bit familiar with her.
Okay, yeah. So she's gonna come on sometime this next week on the panel, and we're going to talk about some things that she's, some things she believes in and don't believe in. But I only said that to say this, brother. There is no credible research in this world that will. So keep in mind what I said. I said credible research. So I wasn't pinning it on a scholar. I'm saying because scholars got to research. I'm saying any scholar that researches, there's no credible research. So I'm giving him the research, not the scholar. Scholars can be biased. They can say, they could be, they could say, they could be untrustworthy, right? And they can say what they want to say. I'm saying the research that the scholars got to come across, none of it that's credible, that's taken serious, is going to say that Europeans went to Africa and took black people to sell, right? And Africa was like harmless, was innocent. Remotely suggests that Europeans kidnapped a significant amount of Africans. Brother, the research says this. The research says in the early 1400s, Europeans tried to do that, and they were utterly unsuccessful. They said diseases, native diseases themselves killed them off. Africans themselves killed them off. They didn't have the military power they have today or later, even when they did the Berlin Conference in 1894. They didn't have the military power to go to Africa and do anything significant. So they came back 200 years later with their checkbook. And it was like, hey, man, how much? So you have something called slave raiders and slave raids. So you got Queen Nzinga from Mali and Ghana. So Africans at a 90% rate largely were the kidnappers of Africans. And so everything you said after that was true. But the way we got on that ship was through the hands of Africans.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I asked you who kidnapped. Because I know some people like to believe that white folks were successful in snatching up Africans, and they were utterly. And you can do any source. I can read your sources. You can pull them up. I don't care where you go, brother. Anywhere. No credible historian can say the opposite.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, so now I say historian, but I made it clear the research. All right, here we go. Now listen to it. Now this is what I don't like. You cherry pick my words. I said historians last, but I did say research. So not just historians won't do it. A credible one, that's like that's protecting their reputation as a historian. But I also said there's no credible research out there that says what you said, brother. Now look how you cherry pick what I'm saying. Oh my God, when it does that.
Now, hold on. Yeah. You said in the beginning this was going to be a conversation and a discussion, not a debate.
Yeah, not a debate. No,
I'm not going to.
Now look, family, where are we debating? We're talking. He said kidnapped. I just simply asked him to clarify, like, yo, you're saying kidnapped, you dig, and that's very ambiguous because you didn't really explain who did the kidnapping. So I'm just asking for clarification. When you say we were kidnapped by whom? He didn't really say. He just said, that we all know white people finance the slave ships, dropped off countries, slave ships. That was not my question. My question was, who did the kidnapping? And he tried to imply white people. So now I can't respond. Like, brother, where'd you get that from? So a lot of these people believe they can just say what they want and be blatant lies across people podcasts, and we're not responsible enough from. Look, even on his show, I would have said the same thing. Like, brother, where you get that from? But on my show, I believe my job is to protect my viewership and also the integrity of my content, not just the viewers, but the integrity of the content. I want to keep it to my standards of approval, right? Because I'm like, dude, that is not accurate. Historically, that's not accurate. And it's my job, from what I like to my channel, to represent integrity, honesty to the best of our ability, right? And we're debunked, we accept the correction as well. But these guys just expect to just be able to rant, say anything they want, and don't be challenged. So now all of a sudden, brother, you said we're not going to debate.
Now, hold on.
Yeah.
Just you said in the beginning this was going to be a conversation and a discussion, not a debate.
Yeah, not a debate. No,
I'm not going to.
give you a here.
Okay,
So that
and I'm
wasn't
saying
that wasn't big.
right.
I would
So
give you
no,
like
what
a
I'm
historian perspective. Like everywhere you research, is nobody's going to say
no.
there was African white Europeans who kidnapped and they were successful. They're going to say they flopped, failed, and they had to come back and purchase from Africans. So that wasn't the big. I'll just give you the historical analysis on that.
Well, again, we can agree to disagree.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I understand your positioning, and you said there's no credible research. Now,
there you go.
You know, one of the reasons I say I don't do debates is because I'm very familiar with how people play with debates.
Okay, so this is just bullshit. He's very familiar how they play with debates. What are you talking about, man? Like this is an excuse not to be challenged. That's all. I say it's like I wait and I say so. I'm a Pan-Africanist and I say so. Who the hell says I don't want to do debates because I know how they play with debates? What do you, bro? We're just exchanging information, man. It's not that serious.
Now we can say I disagree with the research. Okay. But when you say there's no credible research, when you say there's no credible research, that's always going to be up for interpretation.
So before I play that, African Power says Europeans were able to go in the interior of Africa, India, Amazonia, and Brazil, but for certain reasons they couldn't get into. Okay, look, brother. Listen, we're smart over here. African Power. I know you're used to going to channels where you just could say something like that and that's enough. Oh wow, that just makes so much sense. Okay, brother, I'm gonna give you the link. Okay. And I'm just interested in your research. So now I'm gonna give African Power the link. I'm gonna provide the link and the phone number. Okay, you could do either one. You could choose either one, African Power. All I want to do is hear your research. All right, because I know you Pan Africans like to revise history because you want to protect Africa, dirty hand, and the transatlantic slave trade, right? So I'm going to give you the link and the phone number. You choose how you want to call in and communicate with us. Okay, but I'm willing to hear you read your research. Just let us know where you're reading it from. Okay, all right, okay. So I'm not smart. Okay, he copped out. He copped out. I'm not smart, so that should be even an easier task for you. See, the challenge, if I was smart, the challenge is get your message across if I'm smart, because you got to figure out a way to get past me. But if I'm not smart, your job is even easier to call in and explain your situation and show how dumb I am. So I gave you the Zoom link, I gave you the phone number. Okay. If you don't do either one, I'm just gonna ignore you.
Interpretation. What you determine as credible, what I determine as credible, is going to always be at odds, or may always be at odds. Number two, when you say kidnap, when I say kidnap, unless we agree to.
That's my fault right there.
Exactly what that means. Again, it's all up in the ether and it could go either way. Now, I don't necessarily mind if you wanted to give me a historian that I could research who says there's no credible evidence, and I had the time to go and look at that research and see why they're saying it, then I.
Okay, now this is just Pan-Africanist babble. African Power, you're not going to switch the subject. I don't care about North Africa and Europeans being sold. I don't care what you're talking about. We're talking about the transatlantic slave trade and Africa's dirty hand. Okay, their dirty hand that was involved in it. And after we be successful with reparations over here in America, yeah, y'all next. Okay, y'all are next. Some of y'all empires are still standing, so you guys are next.
I might come back and say, something, I agree with you. But I'm not going to just say, yeah, you're right.
No African Power. Matter of fact, African Power, I'm going to time you out just for 10 minutes, okay? You're not going to demand something from me. That's not how that works over here, bro. You say I'm not smart, but I am smart. You don't set up a question for me to answer. So now when I answer and you don't like the answer, now that's the new debate. No, sir. Transatlantic slave trade and Africa's dirty hand, dirty involvement, okay? That's what we're talking about.
There's no credible research when I've researched it. I have read books from various historians, and I know that I have read about Europeans who did actively participate in the quote unquote kidnapping. And so, like, that's why I tried to say it the way I said it.
And also, family, what's also disingenuous when you read research on history and you start to insert language that you don't read from any research. Okay. I don't know any research that calls it kidnapping. This is a Pan-Africanist term. All right. The research doesn't really use the term kidnapping when it describes what happened with Africans selling blacks to Europeans. I would love to like read that and then I will concede and say, okay, it's there. But that's another thing they do, family. And white supremacists also and black conservatives, they like to read research and insert their own language in the research to pretty much add more strength to their lies. So they got to use terms like kidnapping and not with how the research describes it.
There were some Africans who participated in the kidnapping, but there also were Europeans who participated in the kidnapping. It depends on which geographical location you're talking about. Africans that were quote unquote kidnapped from Africans that were kidnapped.
Renaissance Woman says, why can't they just admit that it's true? This is why Africa keeps swindling us. Fam, it's dumb to argue with us. Remember, in Pan-Africanist religion, Foundation Black Americans are the dumbest people on earth, and white people are the most racist. They're the devils. Like that's so they always got to teach us something. We can't make sense. Now, but this is bigger than us. I would love for one of these Pan-Africanists to try to acquit Africa's dirty hand in the transatlantic slave trade versus a white conservative, a white racist conservative like Charlie Kirk. You dig? Go ahead, or Larry Elder, or matter of fact, Candace Owens. Call on her show and be like, "Hey, man, white people, they went in, they're so racist and so devilish. They went to Africa and kidnapped Africans. Africa did not sell them anybody. They're lying. We had little to no influence in the transatlantic slave trade. Please present that argument towards not us. Forget about us. Please present that argument to either a black conservative that's kind of like that know a little something, or a white conservative that argues these talking points. Please do that. I would love to see how they shred you out to pieces.
Now, from the coast, it was about, now I may have my numbers wrong, but there was equal participation. There were whites, there were Europeans. And
so now he said, first of all, it was a kidnapping. It was a one-sided kidnapping. White folks is kidnapped. Now all of a sudden it's equal participation. So now be careful with that, because that don't mean anything. So it's like, but I could see that he's being belligerent and long-winded. So I don't want to keep picking his words apart. But when he says equal participation, I agree. They sold, we bought. It was a bartering system. So I agree. It had to happen equally. They sold us, white folks bought us. That's the equality. But see, he's so vague. I don't know if he's saying that, which I agree with, or I don't know if he's saying it was equal participation as far as white folks, Europeans selling us. I'm sorry, Europeans kidnapping us, quote unquote. That's his language. Europeans kidnapping us and Africans kidnapping us. I don't know if he means that's 50-50 or was 50-50 a business deal. They sell, Europeans buy. And when you try to like, hey, what do you mean by, equal participation? Like, explain that. He'll be more frustrated. So I kind of let that just go and just assume that he means equality as far as quote unquote kidnapping.
And there were Africans that were actively kidnapping Africans from the coastal areas. If you go further, once you get further in, like, so for instance, let's say, for example, we're talking about Ghana. Any Africans that got kidnapped in the area of Kumasi, there wasn't that much white presence. They couldn't make it that far inland. So they relied on the Africans in the Kumasi area that would do the dirty work and then bring them down towards the coastal areas of Cape Coast. But in the Cape Coast area, there were Europeans who were taking participatory roles in the kidnapping.
So again, kidnapping is a word that Pan-Africanists use. I'm going to read the research, quick search that I did on ChatGPT. Y'all can Google. I mean, again, what I challenged this brother to do. I said I'm gonna choose my research search engines. You choose your own. Like the same thing I gave revenue, and I said I guarantee you, whatever you read, if it's credible, it's going to say exactly what I said. What I mean by credible, you can't have this one-off Pan-Africanist scholar just saying the opposite with no references, no citations. He just no footnotes. He just in notes. He just saying whatever he wants. Like this guy. Like no, that's like who is this guy who's speaking? They gotta at least have an education, right? In history. Okay? You gotta show a record of, competence in the subject in history. You can't just be a random guy saying this happened this way because I said so.
So I'll just say that. But again, so I say how we characterize our terms has a lot to do with whether or not we say we agree or disagree, or you're right and I'm wrong, and I'm wrong, and I'm right and you're wrong. But go ahead.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so we can move on past that, but I just want to say what I said in general was, but I would love for you in the chat, you could list those scholars or books that said the opposite. But what I was saying was not just a scholar.
I would love for you to do the same thing.
Yeah, sure. Sure, no problem. I got videos where I don't mind doing it again. But what I was saying was any random. So I was saying like it's not about like choosing a scholar you like, right? As confirmation bias or that I like. I was saying any just random research, any random internet research, there will be nothing remotely close to that. That's all I was saying. Okay, but we can move on for that because I see what you say. You say what you say. We're not debating. We're just establishing, what we read in our education. We're just presenting it to each other in the public. Would you consider yourself a Pan-Africanist?
Yes, I would.
And how would you define it in your words, Pan-Africanism?
In my words, Pan-Africanism is the framework, mental perspective, maybe ideology that all Black populations on this planet essentially have the same common enemy and need to find ways to work together to advance ourselves and overcome the enemy.
Okay, so
the problems that foundational Black Americans have with the system that is set up under the dominion of Uncle Sam are extremely similar to the problems that Ghanaians have with the governance issues that they have with Uncle Sam.
So who would be
and so on and so forth. Say again?
So who would be the enemy in your opinion?
Who would be the enemy?
Yes.
The enemy, I mean, there are all kinds of terms. They're depending on if you want to look at it from a religious view or socioeconomic view. But I'm talking about the governing systems of Western civilization. So depending on how you look at it, that could range from America, the government, the US government, the administrations, all of them, no matter whether they're Democratic or Republican. Because while they all may have some differences in how they treat domestic affairs, they all have a lot more heavy-handed, unfair practices when it comes to their international affairs.
So with the enemy,
the United States government will work hand in hand with the French government so that the French government can exploitatively extract resources from Haiti, and all of the like 13 or 13, I think it's 13 or 14, but I'm not sure. But the West African Francophone countries, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are like the three that has everybody's attention at the particular moment. But the U.S. government will work with France to continue that exploitation. The U.S. government will work with England to continue that exploitation, and so on and so forth.
So just for clarity, you say the government, because the government isn't like a person, isn't like one individual walking around like Thanos kicking over buildings. You mean like people within government, right?
I mean the systems that are in place.
Right, but systems
so
are
no, I'm not talking about any.
People, right?
Yeah, systems are ran by people.
So now, so is that anybody? Is that any person who's helping to run those systems, or are those people
no
system race based?
I would probably sooner say that the systems themselves are race based, but I will not discredit the notion and the idea that there are individuals who hold positions of power in various government agencies that will make decisions to keep, to maintain, to institute, to instigate exploitative problems and oppressive practices and strategies.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So now
you have president, you have vice president, you have the ambassador to this, that, and the other. You have people who lead various.
All right. Go ahead, Revenue. What you got, man?
Hey, peace, Ron. I wanted to know, because I heard you talking earlier about that, after the slave trade, that the diaspora kind of lose their African identity. I
Yeah.
wanted to know, is that only unique to Black people? Because I see, like, that you got the Sephardic Jews that are Jews that, go into Spain, and you have the Ashkenazi Jews that went into Eastern Europe. Then you have the Babylonian Jews that go
No,
into Iraq.
they are African. No, because they originate from North Africa, right?
Who?
The Sephardic Jews, everybody you speaking of, are they North African originally?
No, well, the Sephardic Jews, they descend from the Jews that come from Babylon.
Okay, you keep saying Jews, right? You saying the word Jews, so just follow me. At some point they were in a origin, right?
Yeah, from Babylon.
So what makes them Jews different from? Okay, here's the other question: are there any Jews that originated from North Africa?
Well, you have converted Jews.
Okay, so before I could answer that question, we got to establish the truth. Okay, so the first Jewish people, where did they originate from? What country?
Well, I guess Palestine, Jerusalem.
Okay, Palestine, Jerusalem. Is that in North Africa?
No.
Okay, so why would I attribute them with Africa? So when I said us being sold from Africa, we would be considered African at that point, all right, or from a certain country in Africa. And then I said we Africans being sold, so goes African. So you're asking me about people who are never African. Why would they lose
I
their
never said
Africanness?
I never said they was African. I was just saying,
Okay,
is it unique to Africans? Because I see the Jews that descend from the Levant region.
no, I'm saying
They
like, how does that tie into Africans?
okay, I'm just using them as a reference point to
Yeah, no,
to
I
call.
can't speak to. Yeah, I can't speak. So let me just shut that down real fast. I can't speak to their Jewishness or the lack thereof. That's what they got to speak to. I don't know their history like that. I don't know what they went through, and I can't speak on them at all. I have no place to speak on them. I can only speak on us, right? Uh, Africans and the ones who were sold. So that analogy I can't speak to.
Okay, what about the Chinese people.
What about them?
Well, you have Chinese Jamaican, um
But you just said
Chinese
Chinese,
American.
right?
Yeah, Chinese
Okay.
American.
So yeah,
Um,
so okay, so they left, right? So they left China willingly, and they willingly
not all of
adopted.
them. Some of them left to be indentured servants, just like the
But
ones
was
that
it
arrived in
willing?
Jamaica.
Okay, listen to the words. Listen to the words I'm using, brother. 'Cause you said not all of them. All right, so then you confuse me. Were they forced to leave outside of their will? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So before we can go any further, I'm gonna look it up on the fly. Now I do. Okay, because before I consider your story, give me a second.
Yeah, the indentured servant, they didn't leave willingly.
Okay. Okay, hold on. So I'm just what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make sure the research line up with what you're saying. That's what I do. I want to see how credible you are with the things you say. So let's run that back. So before I even consider them, before I consider them. So what time frame, if you could just estimate or guesstimate, what time frame was this? So I can ask the right question.
Uh, Between the 1800s and 1900s.
So this is around the Chinese 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, right?
Yeah, but yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Cool.
between the
Cool. Okay.
1800s.
Okay, cool. So I know how to ask now. Okay. Where, yes, where, and look, I'm gonna say it out loud so you can know what I'm typing in. Where Chinese people forced to leave China and live as indentured servants. Where?
You could put the Americas,
In oh yeah, I know you're wrong now. In Americas or America?
Americas.
Okay,
That would include the Caribbean,
okay.
South America,
In
Central America.
in okay, cool. In the Americas, right? In the Americas. Before I respond to this, I'm just make sure how accurate it is. All right, so in the Americas, right? Okay, and who forced them to leave?
I would say the Chinese government.
Did they sell them?
Uh, you could say that.
No. Did they actually? So who bought them? Who purchased them?
The the people that was dealing with sharecropping.
So are you sure you want to phrase it that they were sold like we were sold to Europeans? Are you sure that's what you want to go with?
Well, just Google
No,
the
no, no.
parts you
Look,
already
look.
have.
No, I'm not googling nothing. I am going to research. I'm
I
just
mean, Chat
asking.
GPT.
Listen, listen, bro. You called in, right? And I believe I'm a great researcher. So I'm just before I'm going. Look, it's in here. I'm going to type it. I'm going to press enter. I'm just asking you for your honesty and what you know. Do you believe they were sold? Yes or no? So the Chinese government sold them. Because I'm gonna type that in there. I'm gonna say, did the Chinese government sell Chinese people to the Americas? On top of everything
I'm
else
not
you're saying.
100% sure. I don't know.
Okay. You know what? You're never 100% sure. Like you can never. I know it's with you over here and Turkey. She, you would never say I don't know, or you always say I'm not sure. I'm close to. It's never I don't know. But don't worry, I'll type it in. Okay, so we're gonna know. Because see, that'd be a false analogy. Because I said this. I said we when they sold us, I said that's when our Africanness left. I said when they sold us, they sold that too, and the buyer purchased us, and we took on. I said everybody in the diaspora took on their buyers' cultural identities, right? So you got those were sold to the French, became Haitians. Those who were sold to the British, they became, they spoke English, all of the islands. Those who sold to Brazil became Brazilian. Those who sold to America became American. So that's what I was saying. Like your cultural ethnic identity left the state in Africa. It was sold to the buyer. The buyer now is responsible for naming you the same way on the slave blocks in America. But I'll get to that in a second. Let me just get your question. So now I got to add this. And we all know the Chinese government didn't sell Chinese folks to the Americas, but Let's type it in anyway. I mean, that's just, brother, that's just horrible. Okay. Did the, and I was trying to not type this in for you on your behalf, but since you're not sure, let's be sure. Did the
So what
Chinese,
about the first question?
no, we got all this. I want to, you, because you're saying all this. I'm putting it all in chat GPT and see what's true and false. So did the Chinese government sell, the first question is here too. Were Chinese people forced to leave China? That's in here too. But that wasn't my point with Africa. We were not forced to leave; we were sold. Okay, so did the Chinese? But I'm gonna throw this all in there because somehow you're gonna tie this into selling
So
people.
if we were sold, how was we not forced?
Wait. Let's not go back. Let's not go back because okay, you ever heard of forced? You ever heard of the term forced migration?
Yeah.
So explain forced migration and how that means selling. How's that interchangeable with selling? So now I'm a cookie right now. You know, I studied the history of immigration in America. So
Well,
let me tell.
if you're sold, I don't think you're willingly wanted to be sold.
Okay, no.
Sold, right?
Is this dude purposely retarded? Dude, I'm asking you something. Okay, if I kick somebody out of my house, I force them out. I didn't sell them. So
Okay, yeah.
well, slow down. If you're renting a room or apartment from me, I own the building, I own the house. You're renting from me, right? And I want you out, and I got you out. Whether I did it legally or threw you out the damn house, did I sell you?
No,
All right. So that goes back to forced migration. Is forced migration equivalent to selling somebody?
no.
Okay, so again, I
I
studied
mean,
a little.
I,
Wait. Let me add this. So I studied a little bit of history of immigration in this country. So the early British subjects, when they were faced with the death penalty or go to American colony and build up America, were they sold?
no.
So forced, but that's called forced migration, though.
Okay.
So again, so you're making, bro. I don't know why you come here and try this shit out. All right, go to Tariq
But
and try that out. Okay, so
but
did the
it's
Chinese?
nuance.
Okay, so
You just explaining it like is not nuance to it. If you're sold,
I
then
know you
you're
can't.
forced to leave or you're forced into servitude. Unless you're saying that people willingly went into servitude or
Dude,
sold.
dude, when you watch this back, you'll understand how crazy that sounds. All right, so now I typed in some dumbness we know, which did the Chinese government sell Chinese people to the Americas. Now we know that didn't happen, but I typed it in anyway because you're not sure. Then I typed in the second part where Chinese people forced to leave China and live as indentured service in the Americas. I typed both in. So what else you want me to know about Chinese people? That's like I guess comparative to the translated slave trade. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to press enter. I'm going to share my screen with the results. All right. We can read it together. Yeah, this is a crazy reach. Okay. So let me do this. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Drink your water. Shit. All right. I'm going to share my screen, brother. Okay. So as you can see, it said, let me move this out the way. But this is a crazy reach. You know it. And you're in the wrong town for this. Okay, so yes, Chinese people were brought to the Americas, particularly in the 19th century. What did you say? Okay, you said something similar, as indentured laborers. As in many cases, their treatment was barely distinguishable from slavery. However, the Chinese government did not officially sell its citizens into bondage. Instead, the situation arose through a combination of background, the coolie trade, okay, 1830s, 1920s. After the abolition of the African slave trade, Western nations, especially Britain, Spain, France, and the U.S., sought cheaper labor from Asia. This led to the coolie trade, a system of indentured servitude that targeted Chinese and Indian laborers. The term coolie itself is now considered derogatory. Okay. So, how Chinese people were recruited? Deceptive practices. Many Chinese laborers were tricked, kidnapped, or coerced into signing labor contracts. Okay, so some were tricked, some were kidnapped, and some were coerced. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they into signing labor contracts. Right?
Yeah, kidnap,
Right, right.
force,
Force. Okay, no. Coerce, not force.
coerce.
Trick. Okay, so now, because you're comparing this to the transatlantic slave trade, were Africans tricked or coerced to sign a labor contract?
No, but it was kidnapped.
No, they were not. They were kidnapped by who though?
Probably by other Africans, probably by
Okay,
other Europeans.
no, you didn't read that. You didn't read that. You didn't read that. And you just continue to embarrass yourself over here. Okay, anyway, private brokers and middlemen. The Chinese government at the time was under the King dynasty, which was largely powerless to regulate or prevent these mass labor exports. Recruitment ports, especially in Guangdong, Canton, and Fujian, men were gathered in coastal areas and sent overseas. I want to know who's gathering them. Okay, it's not really telling us that just yet. 1 second. Second. Okay, here. Listen, I know what's He's gonna study bad work. It's kind of like a nothing burger over here. You wasting my time. Okay. So where they where they were sent, Cuba, over 125,000 Chinese indentured laborers arrived. You know, it's not saying slaves. Indentured laborers arrived between the 1840s and 1870s to work on sugar plantations. Peru, about 100,000 Chinese laborers were brought to work in. I'm gonna find out next. You guys should know because call them indentured servants. They're not calling them slaves. So we know there's a big difference.
I never said
Peru,
they were
wait, wait.
slaves.
Okay, so why? Okay, cool. I don't know why we comparing it, but anyway, Peru, about 100,000 Chinese laborers were brought to work in guano mines and railroads. United States, especially in California, many Chinese came during and after the gold rush and were later exploited, building the transcontinental railroad. Caribbean, British colonies like Trinidad and British Guyana also imported Chinese indentured workers. Conditions and abuse. Contracts often lasted 5 to 8 years, but many laborers were abused, underfed, overworked, denied pay, and sometimes sold between employers. So they had contracts. So again, that's what I keep saying. Like indentured servant contracts, there's freedom, there's a sense of freedom, and there's a sense of maybe pay, and there's a sense of moving up. That's what happens with indentured servants normally.
What
In,
was
in
we
Peru, in
was
Peru
was
and
Black
Cuba,
Americans indentured service?
no. And were they?
So what? So what was sharecropping?
Dude, which? All right, in a second, I'm gonna throw you off. We're talking about slaves, and now you're talking about now you're talking about after the Emancipation Proclamation. Like you're all over the fucking place. You're too stupid to stick to a time frame. Now you're talking about the different status of Black Americans. You can't even decide if we're talking about slavery, plantation, or we're talking about Emancipation Proclamation, the peonage system. And again, indentured servitude, you can't be forced. Again, what's the peonage system, by the way? Do you know?
Brother, I thought we was
No,
comparing
no. Okay, no. You just said where you just said sharecropping. You said indentured servants. So now I'm going off what you just said. So
because
what
you
is the peonage? Okay, but you just said that. So now I'm responding to what you just said. You just said we're Black American indentured servants. That's the hell no. And you said, well, sharecropping. Okay, so do you understand what the peonage system is?
no explain.
Nah, I'm not explaining. You look that shit up. All right. So anyway, before I go to nothing but so what else? Why am I reading this? Why am I reading about Chinese people? Why am I reading this?
Yeah, I
Because
wanted
these are
to know
indentured
how,
servants.
if they didn't lose their Chinese identity, why do you say that Africans lose theirs?
Okay, so were they still speaking Chinese? Did their language get miraculously stripped from them? Did their religion, did their spirituality, did their customs and all more ways and did all that get removed from them? Yes or no? While he was in the Americas and all this stuff, did they no longer know where they came from and exactly where they came from? Does that miraculously just leave them?
Some of them didn't know
Okay,
exact.
all right, dude. I'm about to throw you off in a second because you keep saying some, this and that. Give me what you read, man.
We, we
no,
don't
no,
have a statistic. We don't have a statistic for it.
Hey, dope, dude. Explain how they all of a sudden forgot that they're Chinese and where they came from, the city. Explain that. Did they lose their language?
Some of them did after generations.
Okay, so was it taken from them immediately as they came to the Americas?
I'm not 100% sure.
All right,
I don't know. I don't
so
know.
okay. So first of all, we established that they were not sold. Okay, they were not sold. They went into contract, whether it was forced or coerced. They signed contracts. So and then they worked as indentured servants. All right. So we know that they were not sold. They were not part of a transatlantic slave trade where they were sold to never ever return and get their religion changed, get their language changed, and lose their identity so much so that they didn't even know where they came from, like what city, I mean not city, what country, what tribe. They're totally lost. That never happened with them. All right, so yeah, this is like just a waste of a time. It's a rabbit hole. I just realized I'm going into. So, but anyway, going back to the topic, which was the transatlantic slave trade. What I said was that we literally was sold. Everybody. Ain't no contract, ain't no indentured servitude for 5 to 8 years. You were sold. All right.
Can I ask you a question?
No, I'm not done because you can respond to everything. And as we were sold, sold was our identity, our language. That was sold. That stayed in Africa. So when we arrived in the Americas, immediately that was stripped from us, and a new identity was placed on us. That's why I said the seller sold it, the buyer bought it, and gave us new everything. You over here now, and this is who you are now. So if we had never been sold, we would have maintained everything we had before. Got it.
Um, I wanted to ask you. So, how do you explain the African burial ground and the Gullah Geechee people saying that they
Uh,
descend from the Gula people or
I
West
don't
Africa?
I don't need to explain that. That's a nothing burger. I don't even know where that even come about. Okay,
Because
you just saying things.
you said
You
that
just
we
saying.
got stripped
Yeah,
of everything. So
yeah,
the Gullah people, they still speak an African language to this day. They descend from the Gullah people from West Africa, and
so
then
you just about to
you have the African burial ground where you could
so you
find loads of African motifs, Sankofa symbols, Ashanti symbols,
look,
and different ornaments.
hey, bro. Okay, I was just in South Carolina with the Gullah Geechee. You were tethered in New York. Uh, I did. Nobody spoke. Nobody when I spoke to them, they did not claim Africa. Okay, I asked them specifically about their languages, where they've been. English is their only language, bro. None of them said they speak an African dialect. None of them even acknowledge Africa as a place of birth or homeland. All of them, the ones I spoke to, about 300 of them, all of them said they could only trace their lineage to slavery. And
Right,
most of them never even left South Carolina. Okay, if they
right.
leave, they go to Florida and they come right back. All right, but I specifically was trying to find out where they are these Black Americans or did they come from somewhere else? And from all of them said they can trace their lineage back. They said all they ever knew was grandfathers, grandmothers in America back to slavery. I asked all of them because I realized they speak fast, but they spoke English. English was the only language. I don't know what the hell you talking about, but
Right. You know they have a official website, right? For
I
the
don't.
Gullah Geechee people.
Okay.
So we could check and see what they say about themselves.
Who the ones today?
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. A website not gonna speak for folks who said they remove a website just like a website ain't gonna speak for me. Like I don't care what Yvette Cornell or Tarina She, you're not gonna tell me I speak African language when I'm saying I don't. So that website means nothing to me when I'm speaking to people in their face. Like They're in. I worked in property management. I'm talking to them, okay, and I'm asking them questions, and they don't speak an African dialect at all. None of them, not one of them spoke African dialect. So I don't need to read their website to tell me what they said themselves.
So shouldn't we take, you know, the people that
Nah,
specialize in
no,
history,
no, no. But they can't speak history.
anthropology?
Okay. All right, brother. Thank you, man. Take care.
I'm just asking.
And I answered the question.
It
Thank you for calling
should
in. Next time. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Now all of a sudden, okay, no more. That's it. No more. That's it. You eat your applesauce. So now all of a sudden, we were not strict of our language, religion, and spirituality, and okay, more raising. Okay, okay. Yeah, the dude just babbling. All right. So, but he first started off by saying he's trying to compare Chinese people to the African slave of the translated slave trade. Stop. Get out of it. Don't go back in there. Eat your applesauce. Yeah, so we're not doing it. Just he just do I don't know what this family. This is what happens when you don't do research and you just cherry pick. I try to I gave Golden Brown a little bit of advice. I said when you research, you want to research with an open mind, right? You got to be prepared to get results that's going to contradict what you believe in or your opinion or your hypothesis going in. And you got to be willing to accept it and then drop your hypothesis or change it up. But the current hypothesis, if the research debunks it, you got to be willing to let it go or make modifications or now include certain things that were not inclusive. Um, like for example, I got a good case in point. So I research where there are other countries in a diaspora that was sympathetic towards the civil rights movement for Foundation Black Americans. It said yes. So now, contrary to what I thought going in, I thought none of Africa or none of the diaspora was sympathetic to the civil rights movement of the 60s, 50s and 60s. But it said nah, some of them were, and it listed them by name and listed what they said at the time in their papers and in their media. So I'm like, oh shit. See, that's being an unbiased mind. So now I would never say none of them were sympathetic. They all didn't give a damn. I won't say that because the research contradicted my belief going in, my opinion, my hypothesis going in. This guy ignores everything just to try to get a little this right here. Hey, well, the Gullah Geechee website, yeah, I'm sure there's a pocket full of them, tiny bit of them that may hold on to something. Can't tell you. All I can say is my experience speaking to hundreds of them, and none of them speak African dialect. None of them didn't give a damn about Africa. They all claim to be American. I specifically asked them. I wanted to know. I call myself a YouTube journalist unofficially. So my journalist, attributes just kick in. And I was asking them, politely, because again, I'm supposed to be talking about their resident status, you dig? And I'm over here doing side talk about their genealogy, but I'm trying to slip it in there. And all of them was receptive to like, of course I slipped in, yeah, so your family are, really Black Americans and you guys are found, I'm trying to word it different. And you guys are foundational to this country without saying FBA and all that stuff. Because, they Google it, who knows what they might come up with some crazy retarded FBA guy who just hate everybody. So I didn't want them to be exposed to that. Then they're gonna run from it. So I just say, hey man, really, you're Black American, man, just like me, and your ancestors are foundational to this country. And I left it like that. I didn't say foundation Black Americans. I just said that Black Americans like you and like me, and our ancestors, your ancestors, are foundational. That's how I left it. Ah, boy, yes, but peace to T1 Production, YouTube Mastery, um, Peppermint Patty, Brooke Sinclair, Joycelyn Street, uh, Infinite Wellness. We were the only people that yeah, exactly. I don't know. Let me get wellness is their lineage wrench. Yeah. So now I didn't. So even when we pulled up the Chinese thing, right? I didn't know all of that. So I learned something more about Chinese history. And I'm gonna read it, and make sure I remember it. But to mention them, he mentioned the Jews first and then them. It's like, dude, what does all of this got to do? with the transatlantic slave trade. I just simply said I don't know about the Jewish history. I don't know how they would. I can't make an assessment for Chinese people. I can't say, hey, they lost their. You got to talk to them. You got to talk to them. You got to talk to Chinese people that's in Americas and Jamaica and those places and ask them, do you know your history? Do you know where you're from in China? How can I speak to that? I mean, I can ask Chat GPT. Let me ask Chat GPT. This way, come over here. Let me ask Chat GPT. As a result of basically being forced out of their countries, did they lose their language similar to Black Americans? Because that's a comparison. Did they lose knowledge of where they came from? Yes. Okay. Similar to Black Americans. Is there a complete comparison between what they went through and the transatlantic slave trade, or where their key differences? Here we go. Right back.
Agencies, and so on and so forth.
Here's the next question. It's not in line with that. So did you ever do a DNA test, like an American?
Yes.
Okay. And what when you read there, just the largest percentage, it was what and for what?
The largest percentage. Well, I did 3 DNA tests. They all placed me in West Africa. The African Ancestry, Black-owned company, placed me in with the Bisa ethnicity of Burkina Faso, and they also have a small presence in northern Ghana.
So what I mean was, you know how it says it would say Nigerian, Ivory Coast, and they give a percentage. So what was the largest percentage you had of an African region or country?
I mean, if I can pull it up, I'll pull it up. I don't remember the percentages.
Was it higher than
offhand?
20?
Was it higher than what?
15%? Because like most people, when they do that, it'll say like 50% European country and maybe 20% African country, then 7%. And then it adds up to 100%. It'd be like in small percentages.
Mine was the majority of African countries. If that's what
I got that, but I'm saying the individual country, because they name them all individually. Well, the percentage of each one.
Let me see. I'm trying to pull it up.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up now, but I haven't looked at this in a while, so I'm having an issue trying to read how it's set up. But like for instance, off top, it's showing 30% Nigerian, 11% Western Bantu.
That's all. Okay. I expect you to give me hope. Yeah, I just want to know the highest percentage in what country, because I was asking my chat to do the same thing. Like, what is the? Because some people they'll say Nigerian for some folks. Some people say something totally like Ivory Coast to be like 25%. It's like interesting. They're all like West African, Central African, but it's interesting how people are from different percentages from different countries. It's not all the same country. That's all. I was just curious in yours. Now, do you consider yourself? So this might be a 2-part question. It's kind of easy. So, do you prefer? I'll say that. Do you prefer to call yourself African American over Black American, or you use them both interchangeably. One of doesn't matter.
I typically use them both interchangeably. It doesn't really matter to me.
All right.
After I'll go so far as to say after reading certain people, I started to think we should move beyond that. But I know that's way far down the road for most people. So
right. So now, do you understand the argument? I'm not saying you agree with it, or the position of, let's say, Adolf Freeman, and that people call themselves those acronyms. Their position, why they don't want to use the word African and self-identifying, and why they feel the need to self-identify, a term more exclusive to those who had the slave experience in America.
Do I understand?
Yeah, because you got people who represent it that sit in FBA, but they don't really do a good job representing the major talking points.
I would say, at least from the opening gate, I think I do understand why, and I would key up on what you said. A lot of them are not doing that great of a job in their articulation.
So now, do you believe that's necessary to self-identify in 2025?
Now, do I believe it's necessary? I would say it depends on what the topic and what the reason or the rationale behind the need. There are some things that I would say there are a couple of topics that I have heard, that I have looked into, where I'm like, okay, I can understand the need for a sharper identification. Again, when I do find those, I don't hear people moving on, working on, talking about that particular topic. I hear people moving on things that I'm like, yeah, that's not okay. I gotta go.
Yeah,
I've been in online conversations.
All right. So okay. So remember, so before Revenue called in, let me just go back where I was, because this same brother, the true perspective, was acting like and even, I mean, they just can't be honest. Like, even Revenue just now said like he admitted that the kidnapping was done by Africans, but then he tried to slip in Europeans. Like these guys are sick, man. Like, this religion is killing them, man, mentally and spiritually and educationally, intellectually. It's killing them. They just cannot admit that Africans sold black people. Like, what is, like, are they that much against FBA? God damn, they don't even want to admit. Revenue is almost implying that we sign contracts with Europeans. Like, that's why he brought up the Chinese people. Now, I will finish reading everything in a second, but I wanted to play more of the debate because this was the recap. So let me just read the research earlier that I did with this notion that Africans somehow didn't sell us, and it was white people who just kidnapped us. And by the way, let me, you know what? I want to read the research with Revenue. All right, so let me, he ain't gonna be able to click a link, but let me put the phone number in there for Revenue to call back in. Because I want to read the research, but I want to show how delusional that these people are. They don't want to admit to no truth. Okay, like, we read the research, he read it, understood it, then he comes back on here and he's back retarded. Like, he just don't. I mean, is it that damn serious? Like, why?
Daddy?
Yes.
It's ready.
No, leave it alone. Yeah, so why can't Revenue and other Pan-Africanists still be anti-FBA, but just admit the historicity when it comes to the transatlantic slave trade? Why is that? Why is Pan-Africanist religion? They have to minimize it, minimize Africa's accountability, the dirty hand in the translated slave trade. So I want Revenue to call back in. not so much to rant and deflect from the the recap, but more so understand this no disclaimers piece. Yeah, Geechee is not African. Yeah, like he just whatever. All right. Revenue. Call back in, man. And not really to debate or with your crazy ass points. Just the subject is the subject, man. The Chinese and this and the Jewish people. That just why the rabbit hole I went down. We're just talking about the transatlantic slave trade, bro. We're just talking about the topic, man. All right. So anyway, that's the phone number. Call back in, man. All right. So now we're gonna go over this. Okay. Okay. So African involvement in the transatlantic slave trade, truth versus Pan-Africanist narratives. Misconception by some Pan-Africanists. Some Pan-Africanists claim that Europeans kidnapped Africans in large numbers by force without local cooperation. Africans had little to no involvement in slave raids or sales. All responsibility lies solely with Europeans. This is how they all talk. Historical truth. Even when what's his name? Professor Grift, even when he was challenged by somebody who came by under the name US Freedman on his channel, because he said, prove Africans sold blacks to Europeans. I mean, like as though that's a myth. As though he's asking to prove that Santa Claus was Shaka Zulu. Like, this is impossible. You can't do this. So when a guy get on there and told about Ghana, like, hey, do you know Ghana? Yes. What do you want? Okay. So he said, he went to explain the US Freedman guy. He went to explain how Ghana themselves have a formal apology on behalf of the Ghanaian people. The country itself apologized for slavery, and Professor Grift told him that's not good enough. So dude, like, what? And then kick the guy off. Oh, you're aggressive. Then he act like the guy was just so hostile and belligerent that he had to kick him off. And he kicked him off. All right. So anyway, so I want to play more of the debate recap, and I want to buy time for revenue or another Pan Africanist to call in that thinks that I was kind of like wrong on certain points, or the proper perspective was correct on certain things. Call in. So revenue, call in, or somebody who believe the proper perspective or the Pan-Africanist ideology is something worth preserving.
Been in real life, sitting down breaking bread with brothers, and I'm like, yeah, okay, at this point I take my leave.
Yeah. So let me say this to that. So that even with my chat, because some of them feel like we should talk about certain things over certain things, and they like prioritize it. So I'll share the same thing with you, brother. What's not your cup of tea, or was not important to you, or was important to you, is not necessarily important to the next man and next sister. So now do we devalue? So because somebody want to talk about something that's very dear to them, do we devalue them and say, no, you need to talk about what I feel is important for it? See, that's what we discourage over here. We feel like everybody truly have a voice. We feel like each person is an individual. Nobody owns them. Nobody leader of them. They can freely express whatever they want, and they can prioritize what's important in their life. We have no right to tell them what they want to talk about over anything else is less important than what I want to talk about. So we don't do that over here. We're not a cult. We don't have a leader. We let people freely determine what music they want to listen to, what books they want to read. We don't say, hey, man, you listen to this, the power perspective. You can't come over here. We don't do that. Like, even though, like, let's say if I hated your gut, I still wouldn't advise not one person to avoid your channel. What I would simply do is explain why I won't, patronize or visit. But I do not encourage folks to join Islam, to disjoin Islam. We don't do that over here. It's freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of everything over here. So I don't like when people prioritize like what's important. Like that's each individual own opinion, and they might have an agenda, because there's a lot to go into that. So let me explain why we delineate and self-identify, and you let me know what you agree with and disagree with, and I'll speak slow. So we want to delineate for something particular. So we understand that America never wanted to make right of how they wronged us, right? Jim Crow, slave legacy, peonage system, convict leasing, all that stuff. So, and we understood when it was time for them to yeah. So we knew that when it was time to face it, they will always just invite an influx of immigrants. Let me start off by saying this, not to pull rank anything, but I do study the history of immigration in the country. So when the Homestead Act came around, they gave all the white folks over 270 million acres of land, and then when we negotiated just simply 40 acres a mule to about I think they had 270 million, we only had like 300,000 total acres of land that was divvied up to 40 acres to each person that was doing. Okay, so once they got their land, and by the way, they got their land, it was not owed to them. They didn't fight for it. It was just completely unearned income. It was a gift. It was welfare. It was just given to white folks freely that came from Britain and those places. As long as it just tilled land for 5 years, it was just free access to land, which was wealth, right? And as a matter of fact, middle America, 1.6 million white folks right now benefit specifically and directly from that Homestead Act of 1862, that free land. But when it was our time and when it was given to us, okay, Abraham Lincoln helped with the Emancipation Proclamation, 1868, 14th Amendment citizenship. When it was given to us, he was assassinated and it was given right back to them. And what they did was they allowed another large influx of immigration. So what I'm saying is every time America is forced to look at the ills and harms they did to us, specifically the lineage, they will sidebar, deflect, and just do a mass influx of immigration. So now fast forward 100 years later, when the civil rights movement kicked off and was passed and approved 1965, what they do, instead of acknowledging the wrong and affirmative action being exclusively for us, because now everybody's colored people, but when the sign said colored folks only, they weren't talking about Hispanics, anybody else. They're talking about people with slave lineage, right? So what they did was they passed the next year after the 64 Civil Rights Act was signed to guarantee protection and freedom of, to outlaw desegregation and discrimination. The next law, what they do, they passed the immigration law. Here go a bunch of influx of immigrants again. All right, so going back, this has been their strategy, is to just deflect but not neglect, and then do a mass influx of immigrants. So we want to be exclusive. We don't want it to be colored people, because those colored people, those signs weren't for them, and whites only, those signs were not for them. So we don't want to be grouped up with folks who haven't shared the same experience, because if we're grouped up with them, then they get to eat off what's exclusive for us, for what was the harm that was caused to us. So we want to delineate for that purpose. So we don't want anybody eating off our plate that's something for us, whether they're Black immigrants, Latino, Chinese people, because you had the Chinese Exclusion Act that was suspended in 1965. So yeah, so many folks that was barred from this country that was allowed to come here, and then they was allowed to eat at our table for things that were exclusively just for us. So that's the main reason why we're saying no. We reject the terms you gave us, because those are all inclusive terms, right? You say African American. Obama was the first African American president. He's from Kenya with a white mom. He has no slave ties, no slave experience, nothing. And he's called African American. And like you said, it's used interchangeably. So they're also called Black Americans. So we say, okay, so both those terms were supposedly exclusive, but now they're inclusive. So now we're going to give language to these terms where nobody can be, grouped up with us. So we have ADOS, American descendant slaves. Obama can never be ADOS. He was never a descendant from American slave. And we have Foundation Black American. Obama can never be FBA because his lineage does not go back to the foundation of this country. So what you agree with that and what you disagree with?
Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me? Hello? Can you still hear me?
Hey, brother, you breaking up? Go ahead.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you better.
Okay. All right. I wish I should have just like flowed you up. That's a whole lot.
I know, but
So it's kind of no. I'm saying it's difficult for me to say what I agree with and disagree with because it's like you drop like 20 different points. But so I'll say I recognize, and I think that I would say I agree with the idea that they never try to honor the debt. And they always try to maneuver and figure out ways not to honor the debt. I think that's what I heard from you saying. So, right. And so yes, I agree. I agree with that. They always do that, and they will use anything available to them to do that. Now, as far as yes, so they will deliberately say, let's not write the civil rights legislation, so that it applies to just the descendants of the slaves. Let's write it so that it applies to everybody. I agree that that's what they did. I agree that that's what the civil rights leaders agreed to. We could have an argument as to whether or not they should have made that agreement, but they made that agreement. I don't have an issue so much with trying to say, look, let's go back and rewrite this. Let's go back and try to fix this because you're clearly dancing around the board game so that you don't give me the money that you owe me and you can just pick and choose favors. Okay, I'll agree with that. The legislation needs to be addressed and fixed so that whatever it is that we're looking at, if we're looking at set asides, if we're looking at hell, to some extent, that's what they were attempting theoretically to do with the DEI programs that they came up with after George Floyd was assassinated. Again, with every plan and program that we work on, they are going to try their best to loophole themselves back into not doing the right thing. I would agree with that. And I would agree that that should be addressed, fixed, corrected, managed, so that like you're never going to stop them from doing it, but so that you always have legitimate legal recourse to smack them every time that they do it.
Okay, so I'm just say this right here in response. We can move on. I'm sorry. Okay, so you said political leaders, activists signed on to it. So I took that as like you were trying to shift the blame. But let me say this.
No, how is that? Oh, no, hold on. How is that shifting the blame? The legislation was presented. The legislation was negotiated. It was presented by and for and through the civil rights leadership. So that would be like the MLKs and the Thurgood Marshalls and so on and so forth. They fought for that legislation.
I got it, but I thought we were not debating.
No, I'm saying, how am I shifting the blame?
Right, but you can ask that question on one side because you said some things I agree with. I didn't agree with, but I didn't cut you off because that's debating, right? So I was letting you finish, and I was going to respond, and you could, respond back. But I didn't want to debate where we cut each other off. So shifting the blame because the way bills are written, okay, this is why there's a problem with Republicans and Democrats. So there's never going to be a bill passed in Republican favor that the Democrats didn't introduce some of their stuff that they want in there, and vice versa. There's never going to be a Democrat bill passed where Republicans don't slip in stuff they want. That's how bills work in American history. Okay, so when we wanted to end segregation, legal segregation, legal discrimination, well, at that time you had the party shift. So the Republican Party was switching over to the Democratic Party. The Democrats switching over to the Republican Party. So during that party switch, the Republicans wanted some things not there. And this was the only way they were going to end legal Jim Crow. And so much of us were dying and being harmed and being marginalized and deprived and denied the legal Jim Crow. We just wanted that just to end. Yes, we couldn't get it. So basically, you're not going to get a perfect bill when you got an opposing side not totally agreeing with everything. That's just how bills work. And this is why they assassinated Dr. King, to make sure other things, it wasn't like we were all intact, sitting there like, okay, cool. Our leaders got assassinated during the final bills, the most important bills, which was the FHA of the civil rights movement. Okay, so during the FHA writing, Dr. King was coincidentally assassinated before the FHA bill was written in blue. So I don't think he signed off to that one, and that's like the most important one of the whole civil rights era of 1960s. So and I don't believe A. Philip Randolph is at the table either. So you got those at the table just by default because other folks couldn't be there. Either they were dead or assassinated or jailed. But anyway, that's how bills work, though. There's a give and take. It'll never be completely for you. There's going to be some dirt in there. But the overall thing is, hey, the main talking points should be addressed, and the main talking points were to end legal Jim Crow, which it did, and add federal protection, which it did later, better later, but it did that. So now I gotta ask, this is unfair, right? You said cult leaders, and I probably don't believe that now. Talking with me, and you believe Tariq Nasheed is the co-leader. I don't have a leader. Tariq Nasheed is not my leader. It's my brother. That's it. He can never lead me, right? He can only, be a peer or brother to me. Matter of fact, you can't. Nobody can be my leader. Nobody can be my leader. Not even Dr. King. Nobody can be my leader. You're just gonna be a brother to me, or a big brother to me, little brother to me, little sister, big sister. That's it. Okay, and I may consider your experience and advice and consultations, but nobody is my leader. So do you? With that being said, and a lot of us here believe that. A lot of FBAs believe we're all cult members, or you think that maybe blindly following Tariq Nasheed, but other folks are not. Other folks got their own mind.
Okay, well.
All right, so I'm back. All right, so let's address where I left off at. Okay, so right over here. If I missed some chats, let me read some chats. I know y'all saying something. Okay, so we got African Power Source. He's still trolling. I'm ignoring him. I ain't even gonna time you out. We got Crack Knitter 33. He says African Tethers and Pan Boo Booist are the new COINTELPRO 100%. Baker Boy, I see you in there. You let me see. Yeah, African Power is complaining and crying. He ain't gonna call in, and he's seen revenue calling, and he see I didn't scream at revenue. I just like, all right, thank you, bro, and removed them, but it wasn't a disrespect. I didn't. So for African Power not to call in, that lets me know that he is under a fake account. He is somebody that's probably the proper perspective, or the other dude, the Shabazz guy, you dig? But I don't believe African Power is somebody that's new here. I believe he's familiar with the channel. He's been on the panel, and he's upset with our direction, where we're going. And he's in it just to troll. It's okay. All right, so now let's get into where I was going. Okay. So all right. So this is, so that, like I said, they want to suspend all responsibility from Africa. Africa is holy. Okay. Africa is holy. Africa was just a bystander, right? They had nothing to do with transatlantic slave trade. The strong, mighty European, SMK peace, claw peace, the strong, mighty European just stepped in and just kidnapped Africans, and Africans were just powerless. They were cowards. They didn't fight. All right. So here we are. So historical truth. Let's get to it. The reality is far more complex, and Africa was deeply involved, though under colonial and economic pressure. They were deeply involved. African participation in slave raiding and selling. So you see how they call it kidnapping? That's a Pan-Africanist term. This is the true scholarly term right here, slave raiding. Okay, slave raiders, like the LA Raiders or whatever name they're called now, Las Vegas Raiders. Um, African elites, kingdoms, and warlords actively participated in the slave trade by conducting slave raids on neighboring tribes and weaker communities. So another thing what Pan-Africans do. So some will concede that it was African slave raiders doing the taking, doing the selling. But then they'll act like, yeah, but they were prisoners of war. They were only just fighting and warring. Nah. They were attacking weaker communities. Okay, selling war captives, debtors, see, war captives, POW, but then you got debtors or even political rivals to European traders. Examples of African groups or kingdoms that participated. So it's giving you the actual people. The Homey Kingdom, present day Benin. Ashanti Empire, Ghana, which you know about. Yoruba city states, Nigeria. Look, we're coming for reparations. This is why a lot of those guys hope we don't get them in America because they know who's next. Fula, or we're going to at least try, Fula and Hausa states, West Africa. Congo Kingdom, Angola, Congo region. Senegambian elites, Senegal and Gambia. Note, not all Africans were complicit. Some communities were victims and others resisted the trade. Why did they participate? Access to European goods. You see, it's a sell. You dig? They wanted guns, textiles, and they wanted to get drunk. Maintaining political power and influence. Some rulers believed they were selling criminals or enemies, not realizing the brutal of chattel slavery in the Americas. The kings of Dahomey and Ashanti would often say they were selling people who were already condemned or enslaved anyway, which they rationalized. Historian John Thornton. So they just like justifying the ugly hand they had in the transatlantic slave trade. European rule. Europeans set up coastal fortresses and ports. They demanded enslaved people in exchange for goods. This is called a trade and exchange. Okay. Ships rarely penetrated inland. Family. So African power, you are a tethering liar. They went inland, all this stupid shit. Ships rarely penetrated inland. They relied on African middlemen to supply captives. I know these words hurt. The ships rarely penetrated inland. They relied on African middlemen to supply captives. So while Europeans drove the demand, many African rulers supplied the human cargo, sometimes aggressively. So here's a summary. Here's the claim. European kidnapped all Africans directly. False. Most slaves were sold to Europeans by African elites through raids or war. Raids is what they call kidnapping. This is a claim. Africans had no idea what slavery meant. Partially false. They didn't fully understand the racialized generational nature of chattel slavery in the Americas. Here's a claim. Europeans had no help. False. African rulers, traders, and warriors were key to supplying captives. Claim. Europeans did all the violence. False. African-led raids and wars often produce captives. Here's a claim. Africans are equally to blame. Misleading. They were participants, but Europeans created the global market and system of chattel slavery. These are the obvious facts. Acknowledging African involvement does not excuse European colonialism. And this is their insecurities, family. They think admitting African involvement that excuses European involvement. This is the final thought, acknowledging African involvement does not excuse European colonialism or the atrocities of slavery. It gives a fuller picture, the truth. It gives the truth of how the transatlantic slave trade functioned as a brutal collaboration between African and European interests driven by power and profit. So now I said that Africa and Europe, they went into business like Rockefeller and Def Jam. They did a joint venture. You dig? They did a joint venture. They got an LLP, liability partnership. They got an LLC and went into business as as a multi-member, as multi-members. They both profited from African raids, slave raids. All right. The slave raids just means they went around snatching up, you could say kidnapping, snatching up Africans to sell them to white people to meet Europeans' demands and get their beer and rum, the alcohol. They wanted to get drunk. That's a fact. That's the history. Now, so my challenge was to uh the proper perspective was, yo, give me your research that says otherwise. You dig? Revenue thought he had other research. He tried twice on his channel. All right. He's under the name Kwame over here. His research, he read it live twice and it agreed with exactly everything I read. It was his source. He chose the source. He went on Google and just clicked links, and the links said the same thing. All three links said the same thing what I read just now from ChatGPT. And when I first cooked them, I just did a simple AI Google search and it said the same thing. Different words, same conclusion. So I don't know why it's so hard to, well, I do know why. um, African Power asked a silly tether question. If Africans, so he act like one can exist without the other one. He says if Africans were selling each other to slave, if as though it's not a historical truth. He says if Africans were selling each other to slavery, who sold Europeans to slavery in North Africa and Ottoman Empire to 19th century? Okay, that dude, one doesn't have to exist for the other one to exist. Like he's acting like if you can't answer the latter part of that question, then the first part is in question. Dude, it hurts. I get it. It hurts to read with me. To read, not just I'm ranting like you. You read with me Africa and dirty hand in the translated slave trade. There would be no transatlantic slave trade without African raids. That's 100% fact. 100% fact. And y'all gotta own that. Donnie Williams said beer, run, and a greyhound. Beer, run. If crystal meth was around, they would have won that fentanyl. They would have won that crystal meth and that K2. If that was around, because they're doing it right now. They're doing the K2 right now in a lot of African countries. If crystal meth and K2 was around, it would have been beer, rum, and crystal meth and K2 100%. All right, 100%. So hold on. So now I asked African Power to call in. He doesn't want to, and that's his right. You're not forced to call in, but it just shows integrity. 1 second. It just shows you sincere about the question and the perceived answer. And why is he spelling African with a K? Like, we can't take you serious. I just said a lot of Pan-Africans like to revise history, and now they want to reword the language. All right.
So I would say that clearly I don't know you. I don't know you. I've never had any interactions with you until you came up on my page.
Yeah.
So I can't say that I know nothing that I said would literally be directed toward.
Okay, so YouTube Mastery says, firstly, we all experience the disrespect. No one has to read a book for that understanding facts. Cracknetter 33 says African power. Why are Africans selling each other right now? Then, yeah, answer that one, buddy. SMK says can't dismiss the warlords and the kingdoms that came to power through taking captives, right? V4 Vengeance says Ron, I also cook Kwame. He likes to honor the Maroons in Jamaica, but skips over that the Maroons helped keep other Jamaicans in slavery after signing treaties with the British. Wow. Yeah, that's why a revenue. Why don't you call back in? I want you to address that. So he calls in, he trolls, he try to ask gotcha questions, and then he hauls ass. So let me put the phone number back in for revenue. Okay, because this is not gonna be a long live, it's gonna be a short one. But I'm gonna try to go live earlier, like 7, like 7. 'Cause I said I had problems transitioning back to Jersey. Um, so I'm gonna try to go live earlier, like 7:30, something like that. Okay. But anyway, okay. So African power, nothing positive or progressive come from the Niga acted like you. Okay, so he's an Africant. I agree with that. So let me just okay. So African power. I'm going to answer your question or try to. I'm trying to make sense of it. So you said if Africans were selling each other, you said if like it was like it's questionable. You said if Africans were selling each other to slavery, who sold Europeans to slavery in North Africa and Ottoman Empire till 19th century? Is there any sense to okay, so dude, first and foremost, your question doesn't carry any historical weight and it challenges a common double standard and how people like yourself like to discuss the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, so listen, bro. So now I'm gonna waste time addressing your crazy question. So listen to the answer, okay? So what you're trying to do is challenge the selective moral outrage aimed at Africans for their role in the transatlantic slave trade. You're trying to point out that Europeans were also enslaved. You're trying to point out that hey, they were also enslaved, especially by North African and Ottoman powers. Okay, because you're saying if Africans were busy selling each other, then who sold the Europeans? Okay, so that is not a literal denial of African involvement in the slave trade, right? But you're trying to rebut to those who use African complicity to deflect blame from European colonialism and racism, right? So you're kind of all over the place. Hold on, let me. So is this revenue?
No, this is vengeance. This is
Oh, peace,
V4.
peace, brother. Yes, sir.
Peace, peace. I wanted to
Peace.
I wanted to if you don't mind, allow me to back you up a little bit about the maroon thing I just posted in
Oh
there.
yeah, okay, yeah.
If you chat
Okay.
GPT the maroon situation, you'll see that there were several groups, but the major groups of the maroons, they signed treaties, right, that which gave them their freedom and the freedom to move, but they were mandated to assist the British to chase down and return other Jamaican slaves who ran off to be slaves, ran off for their freedom. So
Really?
yes, and I wanted to see what you brought up concerning the Africans' participation with the slave trade. There would be no transatlantic slave trade without the Africans.
Right.
There and also if we go further in the research, you don't see any wars that the Europeans waged on the Africans and used that war to grab slaves.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. You would think that would be the case.
Actually, so now I draw a connection. The same people, especially when you're talking about the Caribbean islands, the same people that were being brought from West Africa, right, as slaves were the same people that you find in Jamaica, Haiti, and these particular areas, right? So it's
Yeah.
not surprising to me that the mindset of the Maroons is the exact same as the mindset of the West Africans that allowed the Maroons to sign treaties to help keep
Right.
other Jamaicans enslaved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So So when
Same
you,
mind state.
I just wanted you, yeah, I wanted you, the mindset. I wanted to just drop that on you the next time, because I've been dealing with Kwame for a while. Kwame's going to do this. As long as you show evidence of that that knocks down what he believes, he's going to move the goalpost and go somewhere
Of course.
else.
Of course. Of
So
course.
it's not
Of course.
genuine.
Right.
Because
Right.
a truth
Yeah.
seeker,
Disingenuous.
a truth seeker yields to the truth when it's made known to him. Anytime you deal with a character that moves the goalpost when the truth is made evident to him,
Right.
they're not truth seekers. He's searching for anything. He's searching to confirm his beliefs. He's
Right.
not searching for the truth.
Yeah. Confirmation bias research. Yep.
Yes. That's all I want to drop on you, brother.
Yeah. I appreciate it. And I looked it up. You're right about the Maroon stuff. Yeah. He's done. He's done. While you were talking, I pulled it up.
And here's another thing. About it. He says he likes to use. He tried to browbeat us with that and say, "Well, we fought the British and we won and we signed treaties. Y'all don't have that." But you can't use that at the same time when those same people were they were enslavers. If you capture somebody and return him to, there was no difference between the Jamaican Maroons and the slave patrols in America that became the police. It's the exact same thing. They became the slave patrols in Jamaica.
Yep. Damn, the Maroons did. God damn. Yeah, I looked it up. It's true.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
they were the slave patrol, bro.
So Kwame, aka Revenue, gonna be ducking and dodging for a while.
Yeah, because he goes around on all the different FBA channels trying to, he be getting cooked everywhere. He gets cooked everywhere, brother.
Right. So it's really, so what he tried to do is he tried to get educated, like in each channel to be more challenging. So like he'll try something over here and it will fail drastically. So now he knows to not use that with Tariq Nasheed, and then he goes over there and get killed, and then he goes to somewhere else. But he's trying to catch somebody off guard to see what they don't know, and therefore he'll stay right there. Like, so let's say if they're not familiar with Maroon, like I wasn't, he'll try to stay right there. Or if they're not familiar with the African slave raids, right, and maybe they even bought into the whole white people came into Africa and stole people. Like they might even believe some of that, because a lot of us got, we're FBA, but we still got Pan-Africanist ideology, not even knowing, like unknowingly. And so that would work over there. So I say, okay, so, and then even like African power. So if Africans were selling each other, then who sold European? Like some dumb question like that. That's don't have to do with the other one. Like, dude, what does that got to do with the other one? But yeah, but that's what he does. And like you said, Tariq even said it. Like, damn, you just get debunked and run to something else. Like you don't even like, okay. Like you just got point like a white supremacist. That's what they do. Like, they'll have one fake history about black people, and once we debunk it, okay, what about this? And it's just always a what about. Yep. White supremacist.
I want to direct you to something when you got time, right? There's a channel on YouTube called Frank Zanu, spelled Franck. Zanu is the last name, Zanu, right?
Yeah.
He has one video called the Zanu Project Rethink. Haitians could never fix Haiti, right? In there, I want you to watch that. In there, he's talking to this Haitian chick. He's African, and he's telling them he's showing her how the issues with Haiti are the exact same people who they have their issues, because those are the exact same people that were brought to Haiti from West Africa, and the mindset they had in West Africa are directly related to the mindset they have in Haiti right now. Wow. And this is why Haiti is fucked up. And he shows you what you was getting into about selling of slaves and stuff of that nature. He was showing, like, he's in this video, he speaks to the fact that in Jamaica, in Africa, they are not one people. They're not the same people. He says it's a bunch of tribes.
Wow.
So he says he said there's no such thing as countries. Those countries in Africa were drawn by Europeans. Prior to those lines being drawn by Europeans, you had chiefs, right? You had chiefs. So now chiefs used to go and try to conquer other tribes to make their tribe expand for more power. So when you go from one tribe to the next, different culture, different language, they never ever looked at themselves as the same people. This is why they were able to do what they do with selling each other as slaves.
Right.
And now they're trying to pull the trick, and this is why they betray themselves right now. And one before this renaissance going on, you would consistently. I'm from New York City. I'm from Brooklyn. I've been around them. I've always heard negative comments about Black Americans. Regularly, they use that like it was no problem, right? Now that the delineation is going on and they understand what that means for them, everybody's a Pan-Africanist all of a sudden. But even the same people, if you listen to this video, you can see, oh, this is the same people. Their mindset hasn't changed over centuries. It's the same exact mindset. Gotta watch that.
Yeah, put that video link in the chat. Put that in the chat.
All right. I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna try. I guess I can copy and paste it or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna share my screen. So you ain't gonna see it right away because you called in, but it's gonna be a little delay. So this is all you got.
All right.
So again, you're gonna see this like 10 seconds after I say it. But you just go to the top right there. You highlight that, all of it, double click it, and click this, click copy. So you right click this, and you're gonna have a bunch of options. Copy, paste.
Now I'm on my phone. I'm not on a computer.
Okay. So I think the phone is no different. Let me see. Yeah, it's actually easier on the phone. Let me show you how to do it on the phone. I'm gonna go to a random video. It's actually easier on the phone. Okay, I'm gonna go to a random video. All right, so I'm gonna click Tariq Nasheed video. Come on, load up. So, oh my God.
Let me see if I can do it right now while I'm on the phone.
Okay. Yeah, so you'll see there's a share button right there. Just click on every YouTube video, the share button. Click the share button, and then it's going to say copy link. It's the first option. Select that, and then go into the chat and just tap the chat. And you're going to have an option to paste that link.
It is the share button. Okay, copy link.
Now go into the chat, my chat, and just select the chat. So you can type this. Click it with your finger.
All right.
And then hold your finger there. And the option paste going to come up.
All right, boom. I just did it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do it. I just did it. Copy. Yeah, watch that.
All right,
yo, that dude, he gives up the goods on Africans like a motherfucker, bro. And he's African.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. All right. Thank you.
All right,
peace.
Copy.
Okay, so I'm not done addressing you, African Power, that question. If Africans sold Africans, what that got to do with Europeans being sold by North Africans? I'm gonna deal with that, with the Ottoman. So Tiger Crane says, peace to you. He says, look up a book titled The Maroons of Jamaican History of Resistance, Betrayal by, it's an excellent, hold on. Okay. All right. We can do that. Okay. All right, I got that down, Tiger. Okay, I got that. All right, so let me finish addressing African Power, because you asked for an answer, right? So yeah, so you want to, so again, you're trying to you asked that question because you're trying to give a rebuttal to those who use African complicity to deflect blame from European colonialism and racism. All right. So here's what you're talking about. Here's the context of European slavery in North Africa and the Ottoman Empire. So you're talking about the 1500s to the 1800s, Barbary slave trade. So North African pirates, Barbary corsairs, enslaved over 1 million Europeans, men, women, and children. Victims came from coastal areas of Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, England, and even Iceland. So many were captured in raids, not sold by fellow Europeans. So African Power, are you listening? Many were captured in raids, but not sold by fellow Europeans. Enslaved people were put to work in quarries, on galleys, or in homes. All right. So now, Ottoman Empire, how they come in? The Ottomans enslaved Eastern Europeans, especially Slavs, Greeks, and Armenians. So we know that's where the term slave comes from, the Slavs. Women were often forced into harems and boys into military slavery like the Janissaries. These were often war captives, not transactions between European powers, brother. So there's no selling, there's no buying and selling African power. Okay, so here's your logic. Okay, Europeans were enslaved for centuries, even through force, not through complicity. Okay, and then yet modern people do not hold all Europeans morally responsible for selling their own or blame their descendants. So why are you Africans uniquely blamed for their role in system funded, driven, or globalized by Europeans? So I get your logic, what you're trying to come up with. It's flawed though. So you're saying if the origin of slavery erases moral claims for reparations, then why aren't Europeans told the same about their own ancestors? Okay. So you guys like to, what you're trying to do is highlight a double standard. If African complicity invalidates Black claims for reparations, does European complicity in the Barbary trade invalidate European victimhood? Get it? I get it. So yes, North African and Ottoman empires enslaved Europeans, but mostly through war and piracy, not intra-European trade. So African power learned something today. Yes, they enslaved Europeans, but mostly through war and piracy, not intra-European trade. The Pan-Africanist question, your question is rhetorical and it's aimed at exposing hypocrisy, not rewriting history. So it shows that every major civilization has practiced a form of a light form of slavery. Okay, but only Africans are continually blamed for their own enslavement. I get it. And you're saying often as a way to undermine calls for justice and reparations. African involvement in slavery does not erase the systemic, racialized, and profit-driven nature of European colonial slavery. So really, by bringing that up, like you're comparing apples and oranges. What the Ottoman Empire and Europeans did, that was war, piracy, things like that. That is so far removed from buying and selling people. Buying people to force to do slave labor in the most brutal way and selling people for rum, beer, K2, and crystal meth. Okay, that's just a bad. You just wasted my time, bro. You like really wasted my time with that one. All right. So was I done with what I had to do? Yeah. So let's finish this.
Towards you personally. Do I believe if so? No, I don't think you're. I have no way of knowing are you a cultist or a cult believer or a cult follower or anything like that.
Okay, because you made a blanket statement, Oren. I watched your video over before you hopped on because I didn't want to misrepresent you, misquote you. You know, I wanted to be responsible, right? I wanted to maintain integrity. I watched your video over, and you made the blanket statement that FBAs are cult members. So, and I'm FBA. I consider myself. So I consider you, even though you said you don't know me, you never met me until I came on your channel. Yes. Anyway, like an African tether, he's running from responsibility. Like he made the claim, he made the blanket statement that all FBAs are cult members, and now all of a sudden he don't know me. He don't know if I'm a cult member, and I'm like, dude, I just watched your video, so I won't misquote you. I won't have to be corrected. I just watched your video before you called in. I wanted to make sure I knew your talking points. I knew your talking point. All right. So anyway, let's get out of there. There's nothing more to see there. As you can see, he I'm gonna leave it there just in case, but he really didn't really have an argument against the ideology of FBA. He agreed that he's Black American. He agreed his ancestors are a foundation of the country. So he agreed with FBA being an identity. And I'm like, well, what else would it be? That's what we make it to be. It's not a religion, a cult, or an organization. It's just naming a lineage, naming a ethnogenesis experience. That's all. Okay. So now right here.
But a lot of the times when you look at publications, you see.
So me and Dr. Maya are supposed to speak on this very same thing that I spoke with the proper perspective. So we're supposed to speak on the same thing. All right. And she is kind of like, so she's like she evolved way from where she was a year ago. A year ago, she was 100% Pan-Africanism ideology and anti-FBA, all that type of stuff. Now, a year later, she's more open to some of our talking points, but she still has a problem with like all of them. Tariq Nasheed, and that doesn't okay. That's fine. You can have a problem with Donald Trump, Bill Gates, whoever. Okay, you deserve that. That's what you can do in your personal space. But what they low key do is they have a personal gripe with Tariq Nasheed, and they low key try to spread it across all FBAs. Like we're tied into everything Tariq Nasheed does, good and bad. And we like, no, we are separating ourselves from each other. Like what unbiased Ron does not necessarily reflect what Donnie does. Doesn't necessarily reflect what Spirit Within does. Like we are individuals who's going to live our lives the best way we see fit. So stop trying to tie Tariq Nasheed behavior, his flaws, faults, to our flaws and faults. And because you're not tying his achievements to our achievements. So you can't. So if you're going to tie his flaws and faults with ours and make us responsible, then you got to also tie in his accomplishments and achievements to us too. So if he's the big FBA, then there we go. He's the big FBA, one representative guy. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Okay, so she still has an issue with Tariq. That she again, you're that's okay, but by dissing him, you're just dissing an individual. You're not dissing the entire lineage, and they can't wrap their mind around that. You're just dissing an individual of 43 million.
Co-authors, right? Like it's a team effort. With even research studies, we put together a team. So that was definitely a red flag. But thank you for that, Chilim, because you were even you went as far as saying he didn't even know the politics in the community that he was trying to open the damn school. He didn't even understand the politics of the community.
So right now she's talking about, so their broadcast was supposed to be about Dr. Umar Johnson and his school. But somehow they wiggle. So right now she's talking about Dr. Umar didn't understand the politics of building a school. But somehow she's gonna wiggle Tariq Nasheed in here.
The culture of the community, which makes zero sense. And so anyway, a lot of folks now are saying,
now the bad audio that's going back and forth, that's not me. I thought it was me. That's theirs. So I'm just mirroring their video. So all of that was happening with the audio, that's not me. That's the actual quality of the video.
Oh, we told y'all that Pan-Africanism, we told you it's a scam. We told you it never produced anything for Black people. See. And one of the folks who did it was Tariq Nasheed. And everything that I'm getting ready to say, because I know his minions be in the building, I already have.
So everything she's about to say, because his minions are in the building. I mean, you ain't got to do that. Just go ahead and say your truth. But when you start saying minions, you're attacking everybody who acknowledge themselves as FBA Adolf Freedman, but definitely FBA. Okay, so you're throwing the first rock, and then you're hiding your hand. So I'm going to try to schedule a an interview with her, but it seems like she has to. It seems like my available time right now is going to be like 7 a.m. Now, I could do it around this time, but my son's going to be active. Okay, but he's going to be enrolled in school shortly, so I'm going to have the whole morning. But it looks like if anytime soon she's going to be interviewed with me and have a dialogue, it's going to be 7 a.m. because I have enough time before my son wakes up and start to, he's good. He's not bothering me. He's not in the audio, but I don't even want that. So even with Lex Vortex to, tell us about his book, FBA Codex, I got a time now for him. It'll be right now. It'll be at least 7 a.m.
The conversation with Tariq, and I said that I was going to address this, and I am. I am. He put.
All right, hold on, family. My computer is freezing, so it's freezing. Don't forget, I bought this computer like really cheap because my last one broke, so I want to keep going live. So I bought a quick one from Walmart for about $250, and I mean I got strong programs on here. I got Zoom, I got I got Photoshop. I got some big program. I got some big programs on here. So yes, I got Movie Maker. Yeah, like it's not supposed to be on this computer, so that's why it keeps freezing and like that. So trust family. Once I get settled in Jersey, I'm going to get the proper equipment. As you can see, you see the microphone is great. You dig? The microphone is great. You see the audio is totally different.
Out a video, it says
So we're
Tariq
stepping
Nasheed
up.
talks about Dr. Umar Johnson, well, Dr. Umar losing his school. And he made some remarks about Pan-Africanism that I wholeheartedly
Right,
do
Nita.
not agree with. And, he's saying that because of Umar's failure.
Hold on, stop right there. So, Cracknetter 333 says, is open defecation African power? Renaissance Woman says, African power, why can't they just take responsibility for their treachery and agree? Europeans were strangers. The betrayal of Africans is 1,000 times worse and unforgivable. YouTube Mastery says there were so many FBAs who went to him, who have schools that he ignored, man. He ignored, he didn't want no advice. And that's why I'm just peeling back the onion and saying, wait a minute, and looking at it over and now I'm believing that it was a scam from day one. Like I was giving him the benefit of the doubt where he had good intentions to build a school. And I knew it would never happen. Like I knew it would never happen. I knew he didn't have the qualifications, the staff. He didn't care to have it. But I thought originally he had good intentions. He just was in over his head like Marcus Garvey. But peeling back the onion and looking at it now, and all the advice that he rejected, he never considered nobody from day one. I now, and only a scammer would do that. It's like, hey, why would I take advice? I don't have any intentions to produce this stuff. I just want to take money. So only a scammer will behave like that. Hey, I want no advice because I'm not serious. So I'm looking back at it with a fresh set of eyes. I'm thinking that this was a play the whole time. It was never intended to produce anything. And buying a building, allegedly buying a building, isn't enough, because you can have $13 million and buy a building for like some piece of trash building you're not going to fix for the low maybe 800. Not, I'm sorry, maybe $80,000. A school you're not going to uh you know uh make operational. Like you already knew, hey, okay, I got $13 million. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy a piece of trash $80,000 building, and I'm gonna cosmetically just paint the front and the side, which only gonna cost me, let's say, 10 grand. So I'll do that. 90 grand, I get to keep $12 million and screw it over, or however millions he had, 3 million, to only spend $90,000 and keep the rest, just to show people I got something to give them more hope to leave me alone for 10 more years. Shit, I'll do that. I mean, if I was a scammer, I would do that.
That this puts a stain on Pan-Africanism. And I immediately text him. And so look, one of the brothers backstage, peace, the brother Shabazz, I showed him the text messages. And brother, I don't know if you saw it when I was showing it to him.
So,
but I said, brother Tariq, I said, Dr. Umar Johnson is not a Pan-Africanist. I said, he's a fraud.
Wait. So now, see, that's the thing. See, it's just got to be careful. So now you guys got the power. Now, ever since we known Umar Johnson, he was a Pan-Africanist. So now Pan-Africanists got the power to say other Pan-Africanists are not Pan-Africanists. So I agree that he's a fraud. He's a fraudster, but you can be a Pan-Africanist fraudster. FBA just a lineage. You can be of the lineage and still be a fraudster. So stop acting like fraud and Pan-Africanism just don't go hand in hand at all. It's a contradiction in thought. No, Pan-Africanists produce frauds. Let's talk about. Well, I guess when we get her over here, we'll talk about other fraudsters of Pan-Africanism. All right. So we'll see.
What he did was he parroted. He parroted, and he did it well. Let's be clear, he did it well, right?
That's not my
He
audio. That's her audio.
Pan-Africanism
That's their video.
Points, Pan-Africanist points, but he's not a Pan-Africanist. I say he's a fraud. So if you refer to Umar, and then
he's a Pan-Africanist who does fraud. Okay.
But see, Umar Johnson has convinced people, I'm the Prince of Pan-Africanism. You know, he promoted himself as such. I'm the Prince of Pan-Africanism. I'm the #1.
But again, who has the authority to tell somebody not a Pan-Africanist? You dig? Like, he been repping the RBG and Desalini and all these fancy names. He's been doing that for a long time, 10, 15, 20 years. Now, all of a sudden, his school flops. He's not a Pan-Africanist. Now, has she been calling this out from day one? He's not a Pan-Africanist. Then we'll add more credibility and more value to her words. But you can't wait until he embarrasses Pan-Africanism by the school flopping, then all of a sudden say he ain't a Pan-Africanist in hindsight. No.
Requested scholar. He did all of that, and people bought into that foolishness. So then Umar Johnson, who is a fraud, has become the face of Pan-Africanism. So much so, and I land my plane, that there were young people who come to my comment section and they refer to Umar Johnson as the living embodiment of Pan-Africanism. And I had to come back and tell young folks, I say he's not. If you think that Umar Johnson is the living embodiment of Pan-Africanism, then you don't understand what Pan-Africanism is. You don't have a clue if you're looking at him as the living embodiment of such. And so I think that Dr. Saw can speak to this when he comes on. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. What you about to say?
This is part of all this wild, shady behavior. So, Tariq, take your money, you're gonna put out a product, right? You know.
So now Unc West, Bobby West. You know he can't wait to throw shit on Tariq Nasheed.
So there's a financial scam, and then there's the intellectual real estate scam.
That's not my audio. That's going in and out.
I've always said that Tariq, he scammed us with the Hidden Color movies, right? Although he did put them out, he did that. He said they're the best movies out. No, he did not.
So these guys got the power to redefine they got the power to take the label off Pan-Africans. They can tell people they're not Pan-Africans. And now Unc West can redefine what a scam is. Okay.
He did not critique them, right? He did not give us one of the foremost authority on Black history movies. What he did was he put out a lot of misinformation on that. And so I'm not knocking him for taking people money and giving them a product. I'm saying the quality of the products.
Yeah, but people are not happy with the quality of Unc West videos. People believe he's scamming because he's trying to call FBA's Egyptian, and we're not Egyptian. We're not African. Like, we are our own people. Like, Egyptians did what they did. Kudos. But we're doing what we're doing, and kudos to us. So so people look at that, and people do. People come on his show argue that fact. Like, like Chief X, Ngozi, and Ex-Architect, they argue that Unc channel is producing a lot of romanticizing of Egypt, you dig, in Africa. And they look at his channel, his content, his channel as a scam. So when we start doing that, it's like, come on, man. So if you disagree with a video or content, it's automatically a scam. No, scamming has a definition. Defrauding has a definition. Fraud has a definition. Okay. And you can fraud and scam and do all those things with good intentions, like Marcus Garvey. Okay. But just to call people like Tariq Nasheed a scammer just because you don't like his documentaries, like that's wild. But Unc West, when you hate Tariq Nasheed, you will revise, you will redefine words so that people can fit the definition.
It's not been up to par. When we hear museum, there's a certain thing I did that pops in our head, right? We don't expect the bar.
Hey, Mark, I thought you wanted some answers, bro. I put the phone number in the chat. You're asking the chat for answers. I don't even know what your question was, but I'm confident I can answer. So I got the phone number there for you, Mark. I put it there just for you in African Power. African Power is not going to call in. So I put it there for you, Mark. Call in and ask your question, and if I can answer, I can answer. If I can't, I can't.
We expect a museum with good artifacts in it. That's what we expect out of everybody. So
okay, but that's what you expected as a Pan-Africanist critic of Tariq Nasheed. Okay, so again, so he's defining Tariq Nasheed not living up to his personal expectations. And that's what makes Tariq Nasheed a scammer or a bad guy, because what he does, Unc West does not validate it, does not certify it. So Unc West, just like Dr. Maya, they are so powerful. They can call people not fake Pan-Africanists, and they can now hold you to their standards of what you're doing for yourself and your community. And they could define that and say, hey, that doesn't stand up to what I agree with, is acceptable to me. So based on that, based on my personal standards, you don't live up to it. So therefore you're no good. Like this just not good. This, like, he didn't really think this out.
don't say what you're going to do and don't do what you not think you're capable of doing. Don't play with that. So yeah, don't use word scam for that. I'm saying there's a certain thing that goes on in this community, misrepresenting things. Even when we critique, I never forget, you pull my coat there, you say, look, man, a lot of these elders, some of them, their material was just wrong. But do you know there's a way to critique that?
Absolutely.
You say, just look at.
Hey, African Power. We need you to spell African and Africa correctly. Nobody's going to take you serious with your questioning if you can't spell Africa correctly.
At other communities and look at the way they critique certain things. I was like, I don't know, but when you sit back and look at the way other people critique, other elders in their community, it's a serious critique, right? Copernicus, okay, there's a critique on his work, right? And they stand on Copernicus' shoulders.
Absolutely.
Right? But they don't stand on the stuff he got wrong. See, they got that wrong. Standing on the shoulders is standing on the shoulders with the things. And
so my troops, man, I hit up, this whole idea that Umar is the face of Pan-Africanism, what Pan-Africanism is, and did Pan-Africanism ever produce anything for Black people? So without further ado, I'm going to bring up our good brother Rakeem Shabazz.
Yeah, we would love to hear.
Winkler, and
before he even get his answer, watch he talk about intangibles. Like, he gonna talk about some feel good stuff. So he's gonna explain how Pan-Africanism produced results to Black America. And before I even get an answer, I doubt it's gonna be intangible. I know it's gonna be intangible. It's not gonna be something tangible. Not something we can look at today. And it's gonna be some feel good stuff. Watch.
Good sister, Dr. Wright. Peace and love to everyone. Peace and love to you.
Peace.
Doing all right. How about you, Queen? I'm always promoting her book, Booker T. Washington in Africa. For those who don't know, Brother Unc, she literally changed. I read all of them. Check his family. Make sure that has numerous programs. And you still do, bringing a bunch of speakers to speak in Baltimore. So salute to you, Dr. Assar, for all of your great work. So family, if you don't know him, make sure that you look him up. Okay, Temple New African Thought, Dr. Assar Winkler. He's a serious brother doing some. Please do. Hold up. And Sister Juju just pulled up.
Okay.
I say, man, that's the end of the scam. That's what
yeah, my man got the whole uniform on, the whole Umar uniform. So he ain't a Pan-Africanist either, huh? He got the whole Umar uniform.
Surprise, right? I never thought there was going to be a school. And one thing that it made me think about of people who created schools with less, like when we look at the history of Mary McLeod Bethune and the founding of Dayton.
All right, come on. Let's get to what Pan-Africanists produced.
Pan-Africanism, as if there is a race to become the most intelligent slave on the Pan-Africanism is a river with many streams and currents, right? So what type of Pan-African is Dr. Umar? Is he
concerned about this tax, whatever the thing?
Losing.
Storefront.
I'm trying to get
also were indicative that he wasn't able to open a school because his mouth was too much.
Come on, get to what Pan-Africanists produce.
Yeah, I don't know how he became the Prince of Pan-Africanism, or what is it, King Kong? And that was that. They, there was no like follow up or anything, and I didn't try to follow up per se.
No. Family, we're going to stand behind that he is the Prince of Pan-Africanism. We're going to stand behind that he is Papa and he is King Kong of Pan-Africanism. He is the embodiment of Pan-Africanism. You know why? Because they make Tariq Nasheed the embodiment of FBA, the lineage. So no. We're going to agree. Dr. Umar Johnson, Jermaine Shoemaker, whatever name he goes by, Cuba Vasquez, whatever name y'all want to call this guy, he is the embodiment of Pan-Africanism. So when he fell, Pan-Africanism went right with it.
Just say when you get to a certain point, I'd like to be a part of, I don't.
So it's the face or the living embodiment.
I'm just trying to see what Pan-Africanists produce.
In 1900, right?
What was that?
You have a number of people who would come after that, and right. So unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. We can find that in the first Pan-African conference in 1900. Right?
Okay, she's talking about a bunch of. Okay, so that was not in America, by the way. She's about a bunch of West Indians. Okay.
Teach. You have a number of people who would come after that, and in that period, you would have Garvey and Du Bois, right?
Okay, now she's supposed to be a scholar, a doctor of history, and right, and she said Garvey. So shit, I want Dr. Maya and I want Dr. Wright to come on.
Who would also have their own version of Pan-Africanism, but what my argument is that there's a common thread. Unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. And then they all have their vehicles.
So how was Garvey doing that by going to Liberia?
As to how we get there, right? So Washington's independence through industry. Du Bois, he believed it's through organization. That's why you see him repeatedly establish organization, right? The Pan-African Congresses, so on, which leads to OAU and on and on and on. And Garvey also, Pan-Africanist, vehicle.
So how can you dismiss Dr. Umar as a Pan-Africanist but welcome Garvey? Like, who's worse? Who's worse?
Organization, worldwide organization organized through the press, right? The Negro world. So, and then finally Nkrumah on the continent.
All right, come on. Let's get to it.
Pan-Africanism is expressed as exploitation, right? So we can use that to weigh and measure. And Pan-Africanism also, it gets a bad rap in the contemporary sense because people don't know the definition, but it should produce something.
Yeah, but the definition is forever changing, forever evolving. So they're upset at Foundation of Black Americans re-identifying themselves after the previous identification was co-op or was it never fitting, which don't happen often. Like, how often do we actually re-identify, right? We talking about Negro color, that was it forever. And then in the 60s, 50s, 60s, became black. And then 20, 30 years after that, District Jackson said African American. And 30 years after that, basically, we said, nah, FBA. So what, every 30 years? But the definition of Pan-Africanism, it changes person by person to person.
I'm hearing this, Pan-Africanism hasn't produced anything for us. Well, if it didn't produce anything for you, then that means it's not Pan-Africanist.
Sure.
Not Pan-African, because there should be tangible results for Pan-Africanism. If we wanted to cite someone, we can say that's what the form of Pan-Africanism that Nkrumah is talking about, right?
Scientific Pan-Africanism,
material critique, right? Trying to assess the material conditions. So this is the thing. I don't think in the canon of Pan-Africanists that you would in the future put Umar Johnson in that. I think that's sort of like a tag name for him as opposed to something.
How is Umar worse than Garvey?
Truly in the practice of. right? I don't see him in that way. You know, that's
Yeah,
all
no,
I'll say.
yeah, no, I agree 100% with what the good doctor said. That's why in the beginning I asked what type of Pan-African was he? You know, was it Pan-African nationalism? Was it Pan-African socialism, revolutionary
All right,
Pan-Africanism? There are
look, all right.
different.
So we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna act like Umar is not a Pan Africanist. So not only is he a Pan Africanist, he is the Pan Africanist. Okay, he put it on his back. Nobody else did but him. He's the reason why we even talking about Pan Africanism. It was Umar who got the attention of the world, running around, whether you like his antics or not. What other Pan Africanist as more notable than Umar Johnson in 2025? Please give us one. Give us a Pan Africanist that put it on his back or her back and walked around and kept it alive. I know
Again,
it was like damn near hanging from a tree by a noose, but he's the reason why we're even talking about it. So we're not gonna act like he didn't do a lot for this dead religion.
as Dr. Adi said, you know, it's a river with many streams and many currents. So there's different avenues to Pan-Africanism, and Pan-Africanism is the ultimate goal, right? A free and unified Africa and the diaspora. And so I'm not saying that, you know, Dr. Umar never had love for Africa or any sensibilities that made him want to study Africa and be aligned with African people. But at the who are, you know,
Just give us the tangibles of Pan
I mean,
Africanism.
absolutely. And so, do you all? I mean, given, I think I know the answer to the next question. Given what you all have shared so far,
Child of God.
I mean, regardless of whether or not, like, we look at Umar as a fraud. We're like,
Yeah, Tiger Crane, Shakir. I learned that I think early this year or late last year. You know, they started to give different definitions of Pan-Africanism. It's like, okay, like fine, but so there's 1,000 definitions. So if that's true, then how can you say somebody's not a Pan-Africanist? How about their Pan-Africanist described and defined by their personal definition? Because everybody got their personal definition.
he's not the face of Pan-Africanism. You know, he's not that. But because he promoted,
He definitely is.
Oh, peace to my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, my Caribbean Africans, my continent. He did all of that, right?
Right.
But
He was
because he
unifying.
presented himself as the face of it, do you all think that this whole school?
So, hey, Tiger Crane Shakir, I'm supposed to be having Dr. Mayat on the panel. We're just trying to work out a day and a time. For me, the day doesn't matter as long as, it really don't matter as long as it's weekday. But the time does matter. So it looks like my time right now, I'm going to be the most vulnerable, like accessible at 7 a.m. So, and I could always re-air it later if you guys are asleep or at work or whatever you're doing. I could always re-air it later. But I definitely plan on speaking with her, and I'm gonna see if 7 a.m. works for her. And 7 a.m. because at least I have about 2 hours before my an hour and a half before my son wakes up.
Fiasco has put a stain on Pan-Africanism.
Before you go there, we were talking about
Marquise. So
it's simple, don't we? We all know it. So wouldn't an intelligent person like Tariq know that? So why would he use that?
Okay, because Unc West, that's all he does is attack Tariq. That's all he does. Like that. That's his thing.
He has a thing with Pan-Africans. You need to call them tethers and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't call Pan-Africanist tethers. You just made that shit up, bro. You just made that up because how can you call a Pan-Africanist a tether if we also consider that Pan-Africanist FBA? That's impossible.
Do I have that wrong or am I correct there? So I just feel like he shouldn't use that to promote his thing, because his thing is a scam to me. The whole FBA is a scam. It divided a whole daggone movement, bananas, right? Based off of, I'm gonna say this again, the ethnogenesis between indigenous black people in America prior to Christopher Columbus. That's a lie and a scam, right? With Africans that came over here in the slave trade, that's true, right? Like, so we see that's the whole game is right in front of our face. So you mean to tell me this guy, intelligent Tariq, don't know that? Don't know that ain't no indigenous black people in America prior to Christopher Columbus?
And can I say something? I saw in the chat where somebody responded to what I said as far as producing scholarship, and they said the young books, the
Fire
books
style
aren't
beats.
freeing young brothers on the corner. Well, that is obviously true. But whenever we think about revolution, revolution is theory put in practice, right? And if you don't understand theory, then you don't have anything to put in practice. It's the difference between rebellion and revolution. Rebellions aren't sustained. Revolution is a long-term thing that will produce, obviously, us being free from the shackles that we're caged
Brooks
in now.
Sinclair.
So again, I don't want people to think that I'm saying the end all be all is reading books, but no, scholarship is important. Theory is important, because without theory, you don't have anything to put in practice.
Yeah, I would say the theories that Umar and the theories that Tariq Nasheed utilize is called egocentrism.
Yeah, I would love to talk to. Well, I already talked to Unc. He wasn't much of a challenge, but I would love to talk to each and every panelist on the same topic. But same topic in FBA. I would love to talk to each and every one of them, one by one, because it's kind of hard to talk to 4 people. It's kind of hard to talk to one delusional person.
From a clinical perspective, it's called egocentrism, and I like to just say
I definitely need reading glasses, family. So my fault. Fire style beats. Okay, I definitely need reading glasses.
This Dr. Amos Wilson, as my dear brother just said, he speaks about the essentialness of theory, and the end that theory you have to, in praxis, is one, right? And if you don't use a theory, you are using a theory, you just don't know it. I didn't realize.
What the hell? All right, let me fast forward this guy. He just too deep. Okay, he's the new Umar. He's just too deep.
I'm ecstatic. I done beat up numerous times with that book.
Help you understand why theory is important.
I do want to point out, first of all, Dr. Wright, I love your book. I'm a fan. I ain't gonna play no games about it. I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. I done beat up numerous times with that book.
Got him.
You beat up with a book.
I'm not finished. You know what? I'm gonna do something. I don't know what. I'm gonna figure it out. I don't know, but they used that book. I had them before your book, just for the record.
Stop. This book is just stop it.
Oh, my bad, brother.
So I do want to point out that he was actually an official member of the UNIA in Philly.
Who? There was Umar. Right. So like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, stop acting like he's not a Pan-Africanist. So with the brother at the top right, I don't know much about him, but I've been watching him a little lately, a little bit about him. But so far, what I've seen about him, I kind of like the guy. But let's see if he's gonna prove me wrong.
My bad, brother.
So I do want to point out that he was actually an official member of the UNIA in Philly. And there was a dispute over how finances was being paid. And so that's where he put in his resignation letter. And it happened about the same time.
So 100 Racks commented and said, "Oh, so now Umar not Pan-Africanist." That's where it's saying, like, come on, what are we doing now?
On another, I guess you could call conscious community type video, and got a little popular and started getting called around places. And he ended up leaving the UNIA on his own. But a lot of the things that we speak about now are some of the issues that were talked about when he was part of the UNIA. I think it's
all right, so I don't care about his whole history, but I'm glad he pointed that out, that he was part of UNIA, the Marcus Garvey, whatever chapter of the 21st century.
Great way of
I want to get to something. I'm trying to find something.
I must, if I
Just go,
are
man.
what we are, we fight where we are, and I think sometimes they kind of use this idea.
Yeah, I would have fun talking to him and this guy right here. I know these two. I know they're going to crash out. When I start asking those questions, I ask the proper perspective. These two right here, I know these two are going to crash out. They're going to lose their composure. And I think he'll maintain his, they'll maintain theirs, but they're gonna lose their composure.
It's like a white nationalist talking point. They even get on. Sometimes they kind of like to have this political ideology. It doesn't. If my politics were socialism or communism, that I must live in Cuba in order to have this political ideology. It doesn't work that way, right? We are what we are. We fight where we are, and I think sometimes they kind of use this idea of
I don't know what he's talking about, but family. So I will end up dropping off the live very shortly. I gotta get dressed. I gotta, I'm back in Jersey, so I gotta try to promote my chess classes. Easy shmoney. So I'm gonna do that, and I might not be live again till about what's 11. Realistically, who knows? 3, 4, 5 p.m. I might go live again. All right. So, but this one I'm gonna bring this one to a close right before 12. So I shower and we gotta catch trains. Jersey, I'm back to moving around. Georgia, South Carolina, you ain't driving, you're dead. Okay, by here we got the trains, buses, Ubers, taxis, all type of stuff. So I'm loving it. But yeah, so I'm gonna get dressed and go to these settings where a bunch of kids, students, keep people preparing for school gonna be at. And when I teach chess, it's mainly elementary kids. Like it's mainly kids from like 6th grade on down. Now I charge, of course, I charge them. But what I want to do for my FBA lineage and even supporters, you ain't gotta be from the lineage, but preferably from the lineage, but supporters also. What I want to do is I want to see how interested you guys are learning chess. Now you ain't got to be a chess master, go to tournaments, but if you are interested in learning how to play chess, like from the fundamentals to some type of strategy, I can do that. Hey, that's what I do. If I could teach 6 and 7-year-olds to not only learn chess but compete and win first place trophies against people who are like I'm just a regular guy. They're competing against schools with hella teachers. They're competing against kids who've been in these schools for years, and I'm just a regular guy. And my kids got first, second, third place. Matter of fact, they got so many trophies. The way it works in tournaments is that the school who's responsible for teaching them, it's called a team trophy. So if your students place first, second, third, you get a trophy as a teacher. It's called like a collective team trophy. You get family. I got about 30 team trophies. Okay. So my kids dominate that much. Now, I haven't been teaching chess since for about a year. I've been down south mainly. So, but yeah, so that's how good I am. So if I could teach a 6 and 7-year-old how not just to play chess, but to win first place amongst 10, 12-year-olds and their peers, your adults are easy. All right. So we're gonna work on something where maybe once a week or twice a week, you got to email me, blackthinktank@yahoo.com, because I'm very, very meticulous. I'm formatted. I don't play. All right. So you're either going to find time or you're not, because I'm doing it for free. So, and you will learn how to play. Okay. And you will be okay. Unless you want to take it to the next level, I could do that too. But I want you guys just to be able to play with a little bit of tactics and strategies. So again, blackthinktank@yahoo.com. Just email me and just say you're interested, and we're gonna work on. I can email you all back and work on a time and date. Okay, and you don't need shit. You don't need nothing. All you need is a computer, and you could use your phone. You could use your phone too, but it'd be much easier from a computer or tablet. But you could use your phone too. Your phone is. I'm just being real. Computer best, tablet second, phone third. But you can learn from all three of them, and it will be hands-on. But you'll be hands-on from your phone. So it will be hands-on also. So blackthinktank@yahoo.com, and you let me know if you're interested. I'm gonna do a FBA News and Updates, and we're gonna make it live too. It's gonna be live. So y'all let me know if just email me if you're interested. I don't care if it's one person, two person. It don't have to be like a whole 100. I'm doing it for free anyway. It don't have to be 100 people, 200. It could be 2 people. And it could be one person. I'm gonna still do it. All right.
Yeah, when are you going back to Africa or this?
And even the Pan-Africanists, if you want to learn, I got you. You dig? I'm not gonna make it exclusively lineage based. All right. So if the Pan-Africanists want to learn, if the revenues want to learn, fine. Just don't debate me.
kind of thing, right? It's like a white nationalist talking point. They even get on Garvey for him never having been in.
You said that I used to call in Trice's show. No, I have no idea who that is. Like the only time I ever called in on anybody's shows, I used to debate a lot of like religious doctrine. So it'd be it'd be like a lot of Hebrew Israelite channels, and it would be Sodnetter channels, and those who frequent China, like anybody that branched off Sodnetter. Like I called into those panels only. So the Hebrew Israelites and Sodnetter platforms. That's it. Outside of that, I didn't call nobody.
Gone to Africa as if this is some type of knock on Pan-Africanism, and I just think I think they're misunderstanding exactly what Pan-Africanism is. It is a goal. Pan-Africanism is a goal that we are trying to achieve.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ideal. It's definitely ideal. And I'm glad that you all mentioned Garvey. Salute to the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Today is his birthday.
Oh no, Dr. Maya, you didn't just do that, did you? Okay, so I guess when she comes on, we're going to start right there. We're going to start at Marcus Garvey.
I think he would have been 136. I got it was 136, 137. I know he's born in like 1887, something like that. I think he'd be like 130 something years old. But anyway, I see it on social media. A lot of people putting up posts. But today is his birthday. A lot of festivals occurred yesterday. I was at one in Baltimore. Shout out to Baba Charles. He been doing this for 56 years. Baba Charles have had a festival in honor of Marcus Garvey literally for 56 years, is it 56, Dr. Assar, or 65? I think I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, I think it was 56 the past 56 years. He's been doing it in Baltimore.
Yeah, Pan-Africanism is
UNIA, ACL Baltimore, they came out, and I saw a lot of organizations come out. But it is true that when people think of Chilimbe's right, when people think of Pan-Africanism, they do think of Marcus Garvey. And shout out to Baba Imhotep. I know Brother Ankh has an issue with the title saying Scientific Pan-Africanism, but he did write a book entitled Scientific Pan-African. He has a chapter entitled Pan-African Antecedents, and he traces Pan-African ideology or Pan-African ideas all the way back to the 1700s with Paul Cuffey. The 1700s.
Wait, Paul Cuff is not 1700s. I guess, well, late. That's kind of misleading. Yeah, you could say late. Yeah, he was born. Yes, yeah, that's late though. That's like 17. I don't know, 80, 90. Like that. When you say 1700s, family. When you say 1800s, 1900s, 1700s, 600, we automatically think 600. So when you say 1700s, you got to be specific and say the mid 1700s or the late 1700s. When you say 1700s, the common conception, the perception is going to be the common perception. Is going to be 1701, 1720. Okay, so you really got to specify. You just can't say 1700s. So Paul Cuff would be like 17 because he pretty much died in like 1814. So he will be mid 1700s. Okay, all right, fine. But it's still mid. It's not 1701 type shit. But remember their definition of Pan-Africanism, when you're going backwards and you're just placing on anybody, you really can define anybody as a Pan-Africanist because they have there's no set definition. They're making up a definition and they're fitting it to certain foundational Black Americans who did great in history.
1800s. We got to keep in mind, Garvey was born in the late 1800s, okay? And he was inspired to come over here by reading the book Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with Pan-Africanism. That had nothing to do with repatriation to Liberia. So I don't know how he could be inspired by Booker T. Washington and had those thoughts when he come over here. Like Booker T. Washington, had he actually met him, Booker T. Washington would have been like, going back to Africa? Hell no.
So when you all say that Garvey is Pan-Africanism, that's because you don't understand the history of Pan-Africanism. And again, back in the 1700s, they weren't calling it Pan-Africanism, right? So he's tracing it back to the ideas which ultimately will become Pan-Africanism. So shout out to Baba Imhotep Fadiu. And then he talks.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
About other people that we probably wouldn't even classify as Pan-Africanism. He brings up Mary McLeod Bethune. He said that sister was a Pan-Africanist.
Yeah, you just that's what white supremacy do with Black folks. Hey, that woman is a feminist. Oh, that woman's a feminist. That woman, that person is LGBTQIA plus. they just look back at history and just anybody who's remarkable, phenomenal, they just tag on to what they're into on top of them. They just find something remotely close that they did similar to what they're doing now and say, oh yeah, that person was one of us. Okay, yeah, okay, whatever. So, but she will have to answer to those things when we have a conversation. So I'm gonna email her right now and see if 7 a.m. tomorrow is good for her. Cause now I'm like motivated to talk to her. All right, family. American Dream. I do want to. I'm trying to think. I want to do something with you, but I want it to be away from what we normally talk about, more into what you're into, your Black conservatism ideologies. All right, so I got to find a time to speak with you. And matter of fact, 7 a.m. might be good for you too, because the person I want you to speak to, 7 a.m. might work for him. Right? That might be an ideal time. So you let me know if you're up at 7 a.m. And also you too, email me so I could contact you in advance. American Dream Black Think Tank, everything spelled correctly, Black Think Tank at yahoo.com. And when y'all email me, please let me know who you are in the chat. Cause I'm not gonna know your real name and real, government, all type of stuff. Let me know who you're in the chat. Okay, then if I know, if you're a familiar name, I'm gonna know you. So you might want to do that. So same thing, American Dream. You email me, say, hey, it's the American Dream. But 7 a.m., man, I might have something for you if I can't get Dr. Maya. But I'm gonna end on that note, family. We are out. I appreciate all you guys. Like the video on your way out, and we out of here. Peace, Pinky. Black Think Tank at yahoo.com. Okay, we're out of here.